Hey everybody, it's George from Fanatic Forum here. Welcome to day two, part two of our Multiverse FunRaiser here. We've got a very exciting Q&A coming up here with Cress Williams. You guys know him, especially from Black Lightning, but I mean, this man has been on a multitude of shows here and films. So we've got an exciting Q&A to come up with him. So I'm going to bring on our host, Keisha from Keisha Acuff Creations here. Hello, dear. How are you?
Hi, our actual main host today is Tyler.
Oh,
So if
well,
you want to bring Tyler up first, because
Yes.
he's way more important than me anyway. Yeah, and he'll give you kind of
That's fair. It's very kind of you, Keisha. Thank you. Thank you.
All
Thank
right,
you.
good to see you, Tyler here. And I'm
Good
going
to
to
see you,
bow out
George.
here. I'm just here pressing buttons and whatnot, keeping things rolling. So you guys enjoy it. I'll let you bring on your guest of honor here.
All right, sounds good. All right. Hi, Keisha. How are you?
Hi, I am good. How are you, Tyler?
I am doing well. So, like he was saying, welcome to the Multiverse Fundraiser. And I am Tyler, host of the Krypton Report, and with me is Keisha, the co-host of Cryptid Crunch from Back of the Cereal Box Network, as well as Keisha is writer and artist. And we will be, like he said, we will be talking to Mr. Cress Williams, aka Jefferson Pierce from Black Lightning. So let's go ahead here. We are raising money for the Ritter rally for aortic health. The links are at the bottom. So let's go ahead without further ado and let's get Cress on here.
Yep, George, can you bring him up for us, please?
Hello.
Oh, hi.
Hey guys.
I just saw you earlier.
Did you? What did you see me?
I've actually been watching reruns of Black Lightning.
Oh wow. Okay.
Heart of Dixie, because Heart of Dixie is actually one of my favorite series since it came out.
Oh, thank you.
Watched it probably a good 5 to 6 times from beginning to end.
Yeah.
I also have really bad ADHD, so each time I forget half of it, and then it's like I'm rewatching it the same way every time, like a different way every time. So
that's amazing. I had so many different shows that I wish I had ADHD, and I wish whenever the show I love, I'm like, I was like, I wish I could erase my memory and watch it again. That's awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Well, we're very excited to have you here, Mr. Williams, and thank you for being part of this and giving us your time so we could chat and raise some money.
Yeah, awesome. I'm very happy to be here, honored to be here, and let's raise some money and shoot whatever you want to talk about.
Everything.
Well, okay. We have a comment here from Molly Daniels here. Says, I remember Cress on Beverly Hills 90210 and Living Single.
Yeah, she remembers my first 2 jobs ever. My first 2 television jobs ever. Before that, I did a small dinner theater play where I actually got paid. So that was, I guess, technically my first professional acting job was dinner theater. But these are my first 2 television jobs ever. That's going way back.
Well, what I find most fascinating about your IMDb is how many things I had seen you in, but forgot that I had seen you in. And I mean, your career is spanning from NYPD Blue, Jag, Star Trek, Deep Space Nine, Nash Bridges, West Wing, Friday Night Lights, which everyone tells me I need to watch. And of course, Keisha brought up Heart of Dixie. It's very impressive.
It's so
very impressive.
And nothing is the same. It's
yes.
like not in the same genre at all. It's like, let's go from this little hometown country thing where I play, a mayor to, hey, I am a legitimate superhero.
Right.
Like in the next
that's on some level it's by design. At least in my head it's the type of actor I wanted to be, and when I started studying acting, it was the type of actor I was kind of training to be, and I just been blessed that's how it worked out, because I get bored, and typically whenever I'm playing something, I'm already thinking about the exact opposite that I want to play, and Hollywood has been cool in the fact that I haven't been pigeonholed into anything. So it's kind of cool.
Can you take us back to what made you like? Where did the acting bug strike? Where first when you were like, this is what I want to do, and you decided to
Yeah.
like get involved?
Yeah. I mean, I would almost say on some level, I'd almost say since birth, because I don't remember not wanting to do it. My mother at first reference to me as a baby, she was like, she had two things. She said, first of all, when I laughed, it just made everybody it made everybody laugh. It was very infectious. I'm like, okay. But she also said that, no matter what, if I was all over the place, whatever, all you do is turn on the television, and then I was transfixed. And so I always looked at that as a kid, like, oh, that was destiny. But like, I grew up watching a lot of television, and back in those days, there were lots of old movies that were on, and I just soaked up everything, and I just felt like that's what I want to do. And I knew I was a bit strange because I remember when I was probably like fifth or sixth grade, and we had just moved into a new neighborhood, and back then kids actually played outside. And you basically, when you wanted to make friends, you went outside, and you just the neighborhood kids on the street, and you started playing. And I remember I met these kids, and we were all kind of going, what do we do? Do we want to go play hide and seek? Do we want to go do this? Do we want to do that? And I, for some apparent reason, chimed in and go, let's have a singing contest. And I immediately in my head also knew I was pretty introspective as a kid. I was like, that's strange. Like, that's not normal for me to say that. We didn't have a singing contest, but that was kind of, the first memory I have of myself going, yeah, you're a little different. So
Don't worry, none of us here are normal, so
yes,
we're in the right place.
yeah. I don't think really anybody's normal, but
It's true.
My best friend has a funny story about talking about being a kid on the playground at school singing songs from Les Mis, and people just looking at him like, what are you singing? And he's just like singing, do you hear the people? And he's like, yeah. He's like, I knew I was a little off.
So what is he? Is he an actor, singer, Broadway producer? What does he do?
Right now he does music production and started his own studio in Cincinnati.
There you go. That's awesome.
So
I love to hear
it's
that.
just one of those stories that, I pass on to my son, because my son is getting really into theater right now. He just auditioned for his second play, and he got a pretty significant part for being his second play at school. So
nice. What play?
They're doing 101 Dalmatians.
Okay.
Oh, cute.
And he got Pongo, and that's what he wanted. And he just did A Christmas Carol in December. And now he's going to audition for the Knave of Hearts in April. And he's only 8. So like, this is like him getting started, and he's just really excited for it.
Oh man, that's beautiful.
My son is he's 13 now, and he's been doing plays since they actually like opened them up for his age group. So I think his first one was around 4 or 5.
Okay.
With the local high school or something like that.
Okay.
And he's been in them almost every year since then. He can't stand it. He loves the acting part. He can memorize all of his lines. He loves that. But he doesn't like being in front of people because he's a rather shy child.
Yeah.
Which, of course, being in front of people is mainly what you do when you're acting on a stage. So I don't think it's going to really go into anything.
But it's a great, tool to kind of stretch out, and I mean, just like playing sports. These are all things I think that kids need to explore.
Is to be a Lego master.
Nice.
He's 13. He wants to be a Lego master so bad. He's like, I'm going to build my entire house out of Legos and all this other stuff. So, I mean, I don't see acting in his future. But
right.
A couple musicals here and there isn't bad.
I mean, that's amazing. That's more than I did. It's funny. And I was that shy kid as well. So that like my mother, I did choir because like, I don't know if it's weird growing up. we moved around a lot, and then I don't remember there being a lot of plays in the schools that I went to. Certainly, even in high school, our high school didn't have a theater program, so I was just kind of sitting on my thumbs
Oh
through
man.
most of high school. So, but I did a lot of choir, and even then, like my mother would just be like, you need to smile more, and that was it. And so she knew me as this shy kid. So it wasn't until my junior year of high school, our school had a school talent show every year, and people would try out to be the host, and so I was a host. And as a host, you're kind of writing your own intros and outros, describing acts, and so it was the first time she saw me. Actually, I was up there. I was doing like Michael Jackson impersonations and all these different little sketches. She's like, "Oh my God, that's my son! Oh my goodness!" So,
Oh, that's so cute.
yeah, that was the only indication that I was going to be an actor. And to her credit, when I actually came to her and said, "No, this is what I want to do with my life," with her seeing no experience of it, she was just like, "Yeah, go for it," as opposed to like, "You are a shy kid, do something else." She was very encouraging, so that was cool.
Well, we're glad
cool.
that she was encouraging, because
Yeah.
if
Yes.
not, literally one of my favorite shows would not have one of my favorite actors in it. So
That was such a hard addiction. It's funny because the people I understand. I've seen people over the years who are like you, who've watched it like many times over, and people come up to me and said, "Oh, whenever I'm sick, it's the show that when I'm in bed sick, I just got to put it on and
it's a
watch."
comfort show for me.
Yeah, exactly. And it was really cool actually to be on a show though that was like not only the show itself, but like even the environment was so family friendly. At the time, my oldest, who's now 17, she was much younger, and it was her first times really on sets, and they were so welcoming, and it was a cool place for her to be. So
I'm actually
That's awesome.
pregnant with child right now.
congratulations.
Several of the names that I have picked out, regardless of if it's a boy or girl, are from the show.
Okay. So what? Like, I don't think you're picking out Levon, but like Wade or
My name is Keisha, so I don't.
so maybe you might pick out Levon.
No, so far I really liked the name Wade,
Okay.
because Wade Kinsella is one of my when it first came out, I had a huge crush on Wade.
Yeah.
But if it's a girl, I was thinking almost like Lemon, which I know is one of your love interest in the show.
Wow.
But there was I have been forbade by somebody else in the network here to name my child Cricket.
Yeah.
One of the people that actually puts this together and helps and gets all of our fun people on here, like you, Kristen. She was like, "Keisha, please, whatever you do not name your child Cricket."
Yeah.
She's like, "Don't." So I'm not allowed to name it that. But I
would agree. I mean, you do whatever you want, but you're going for a very distinctive thing with Cricket. Like she must wear like tennis skirts and a sweater around her neck, and probably belongs to a country club.
Well, see, my first daughter is Dolores, and my son's name is James. Nice. So I can pretty much pick whatever at this point.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome.
My grandma's nickname growing up was Crick or Cricket. So just because she would run in the country and play in the country and everything. She grew up in the country and everything. So.
It's funny, and this is like just happenstance, because it was like a couple nights ago. I already knew this, but we were at the dinner table talking. I don't know how it came back up again, but my wife at one point, someone just started calling her Cricket. She's like 5'3", and she's got these big, beautiful eyes. So at different points in her life, she's like, people would just want to call her these cute names. And at one point, somebody was calling her Cricket, and we all just kind of like went like, what? Why? That's horrible. I already knew it. But
my nickname is Bug. I am also very tiny. I'm 5'1.5".
Bug too. That's crazy. How tall?
Yeah. I'm 5'1.5".
Okay. Yep. Yeah.
That's
So
what
I'm very
my
short.
father-in-law calls my daughter.
Calls her Bug.
And so
Yeah.
my
Nice.
entire life growing up, I was called Bug or
Uh-huh.
Boris because my sister's name is Natasha.
Ah,
So Natasha and Boris.
yes.
I got the short end of the stick there.
Yeah.
But
That's cool.
basically I was short, so they just went with it.
Wow. Yeah, my youngest daughter, her middle name is June. Named my father was Oscar Williams Jr. and everybody called him June. So we gave her the middle name June, and we're trying to get Junebug to stick. So I get the bug.
Junebug did stick for me. I was born in June, and my nickname was Bug. So
Nice. Yeah, I mean, we were hoping because we already knew that we were gonna. Her middle name was gonna be June, and her due date was in June, and we're like, I hope it's not, because people always think like, oh, that's why you named her June. Fortunately, she decided to, she's like, no, I don't want that moniker, so she came May 31st, but so that people can't attribute to June because it's a different reason for June. But yeah, anyway.
That's smart. Good for her. She made the call. She knew what was going on.
thanks.
That's like when my son. Well, I mean, it's like my son. Like I, my wife was pregnant. I was like, please be born before Daddy turns 30, and he was born January 12th, and my birthday's February 12th. So he came 1 month before I turned 30. So I was like, oh, all right. He's already got a little bit of a smart aleck in him. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, kids do that. They do that.
They do. They do. Now, Mr. Williams, I have a couple questions for you.
Yeah.
Looking at your history and the characters you play, I have to ask you: are you a comic book fan?
So yeah, in a tangential way. Like I didn't grow up reading a lot of comic books. I didn't have a lot of money. But I grew up like as I said, digesting everything that was on the screen. So I grew up watching every cartoon I could think of, and any comic book movie. I mean, to this day, I'm still a bit of. It's so funny. Nerds are kind of like this whole thing of nerddom is like kind of it's. We were talking about it the other night because we were watching this cooking show, and it was all these like these baking people, and I was like, oh, these are like baking nerds because they have all these circuits of baking competitions, and then we were talking about, well, yeah, there's nerds, there's cosplay, and there's cosplay nerds, and then there's there are actual food nerds, and I didn't say it out loud, but I was wondering like, well, we're kind of like my wife and I were like kind of like universal nerds because I kind of nerd out on a lot of different things, sci-fi, fantasy, food, like all sorts of things. So growing up, I watched everything, from the Super Friends, and anytime we didn't have back then, there wasn't like the genre that it is today, the superhero genre, which is amazing. So I know a little bit about a lot, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. I just, I remember, watching Lois and Clark.
I thought that's the first thing that popped in my head. Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, I know that guy. And then I was like, oh my gosh, it is him. I was like super excited. And it just, because you did Baron Sunday on Lois and Clark. And can you tell us a little bit about that? Because I'm a huge Superman fan.
Right.
And everything. So, you are part of the super family in several ways, and we'll get there as we talk. But what was it like being on Lois and Clark at the time?
It was cool all the way from like, even the audition process, right? I mean, I went into the room, and generally I'll say the whole like, group that is actors. Most of my career has been pretty pleasant, even sometimes downright helpful. I've been in waiting rooms with actors where actors are looking out for each other and like giving each other like tips, like, hey, they just said this, so just so you know, and not really like that cutthroat type of thing. But I do remember going in for that audition, and I can't remember the actor's name, but I remember it was an older actor, because Baron Sunday at the time, I even felt like it was written for somebody older than I was at the time. But I had the audition and I went in, and I remember in the waiting room, this older like journeyman actor, he I walked in and he's like, "Look at Youngblood trying to get a job." And I was like, "What is going on?" And it was kind of like with a little bit of venom to it, and a little bit of like I'm like mean girling me a bit. And I always like thought about it later on when I did the audition and I got the job, and I was like, "Oh man, if I could have seen him like right after, I'd be look at that young blood got your job," you know. And so I remember that.
I want you to see him now, just so that you could say
Yeah.
that. Okay.
And but the job also was so much fun. It was like some of the great one of the wonderful things I love about acting is that like you get a role, and depending on the role, you gain insight into something you don't know about, or you get to work on something that's not your world. And so, Baron Sunday was a magician, like under the guys, and they didn't realize, like, wait a minute, his magic is actually not tricks; they're actually real. So before shooting, like they partnered me with a magician. They let me go to the Magic Castle. They taught me some little things. I remember I had this little thing. I still have it. I have it somewhere, like in kind of my little memorabilia, where it's just like this little hand thing that fits in your hand. So from this side you can't see it, but it's almost like a version of a lighter where you can just boom, and then flames will light here, and it's got like a little cotton ball that sits on it. You douse it with kerosene, and then you boom, and it looks like fire's coming. So all these little things that I got a chance to like explore. It was the first time I wore contacts because I had these I think they were cat eye contacts at one point when I transformed, and then I also was very excited because I was very, very much aware of like, wait a minute, I'm like, I don't beat Superman because nobody ever beats Superman ultimately, but usually people get caught and I get away. Like I was like, that's rare. I went against Superman and made it out because I just mysteriously get like I don't die, I don't but I don't get caught either. And I think I'm very proud of that.
You should be. You should be. And as Kristen has said, Baron Sunday was an amazing villain, and I found it to be like a really unique kind of character that I think the character should reappear somewhere and be back.
That would be really cool.
It would be a great character, like just to see resurgence in comics or shows or somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah,
but it was
turn into a
because he
snake
never
and
got
slither away.
he never got caught, and he got away. So even for a second there, I was even like, oh, maybe I'll get a chance to come back. Obviously not, but it was a lot of fun. I love those moments where you get to like pick up a new skill, whether it be like I picked up boxing, when I was in a play playing Joe Louis, and just these things that you just kind of grab. And I haven't used it yet, but I remember when I was in college, we were about to do a production of Three Musketeers, and so I took fencing and picked up fencing, and we were a bunch of theater nerds, so you'd catch us at our parties dueling each other for fun.
That does sound fun, though.
It was oh my god, it was tons of fun. It was better than like improv games. I mean, which I got tired of those.
So me and my group of friends, we used to get together after school in high school. Like we would stay at school because nerds, and we would actually do role playing.
Oh, and
like straight up. We would dress up in character gear and we would run around the entire school. And so we were on YouTube before YouTube got cool. You can still find those videos. I really don't want to say the name because one of my friend Jasmine, is actually a very prominent lawyer.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And I always hesitate. I'm like, okay, I want to tell people that this thing still exists on the internet because I can find it and watch it.
Yes.
But I'm like, I don't think Jasmine would appreciate me giving out that information.
I don't know if lawyers want to be known as OG LARPers.
No, we called her Cobra.
Cobra? Like in Cobra Command?
Cobra.
Oh, okay.
She was like a knockoff version of Oprah. And so yeah, it was so fun. just being able to nerd and geek out like that with friends after school and stuff
Oh,
like
man.
that. So I can definitely tell that you had a lot of fun fencing and stuff like that, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
had the same experience with my friends, just we had foam swords instead.
Well, it was only me, and I still have my foil. Only me and a buddy of mine. We each had a foil. I think then people started buying foils, but we only had 2 masks, so it was just kind of a round robin, loser sits down, next challenger up, and I gotta admit, I did pretty well. I'm so tall, and I used my reach in my favor when it came to fencing, but yeah, it's the internet is a crazy thing nowadays. Like like everything, nothing goes away.
Oh,
True.
this was way back when I was in high school, which I
Yeah,
know I don't seem that old, but I do have a 13-year-old, so that gives away my age a little bit.
right.
Um, but like it was when YouTube was just starting to get big, and what is it? Um, Not Facebook, but MySpace was a
Oh
thing.
yes, yes,
That,
yes,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
and so we posted this everywhere, thinking that it was the coolest thing on the planet.
Because it
And
was.
it was. Actually, one of the things that I love the most about the fact that it did not go away is, unfortunately, one of my friends who was kind of really into the deep culture of, he wanted to be an actor, he wanted to be a magician, stuff like that. He's one of the ones that we used to role play with, and we were really close. We had a very close knit, very diverse friend group,
Yeah.
and he ended up going off to college, and unfortunately, he was not treated very well, and he did end up ending his life.
Mhm.
But I get to watch all of those happy moments of
Yeah.
like us being like him riding around on my shoulders and pretending we're a dragon and ridiculous things like that. Like, so those are nice because I still have those memories.
Yeah.
But
That's good.
like in my friend Jasmine's case, who she is a very big time lawyer in a very big city, she's probably like, please don't
Don't ever show
never
that.
tell
Yeah.
people that exists.
Maybe she like secretly, when she's by herself, she like goes into a dark room and watches, but like you can make
I
sure.
have no doubt in my mind, because none of us remember the email address or the password to get in to
Yeah.
stop those from being a thing.
Yeah.
So we just pretend they don't exist until we're like, this is fun. I want to go back and rewatch this.
Well, it's funny. I
That is
remember
cool.
back in I was probably 7th and 8th grade. A friend of mine, his father had built a radio tower on his roof, and so he was an engineer. And my friend, he had all this radio equipment in his bedroom, and he would just buy albums after albums out. He had like a huge album collection, and so he had a tiny radio show that I guess we never attempted it, but I think the idea was that if you were really really close and you to his house, and you could maybe play with the dial and maybe find it. And so it was his baby, but I came on, and we used to call it KQRM, the Kings of Quality Rock Music.
Nice.
And he
Nice.
was like, the DJ, and I was kind of his sidekick, known as Dr. Gorilla, and I'd be like, Dr. Gorilla. And
Nice.
we would
I
literally
love
play
that.
albums, and like seriously play like a real radio station. We'd play albums like we made sure we didn't step on the lyrics, so you kind of intro a song in the musical intro and get out before the lyrics start. And like it was serious. I'm sure he has them recorded on cassettes somewhere, but I don't know where they are. But yeah, those wonderful things you do.
If you ever find them, though, let me know.
I would love. Yeah, I would just be curious because at the time, we felt like we were doing some really cool stuff and we were really professional. But I don't know.
It's like
We
those old
also
home
got,
videos
like,
I find.
You like
Yeah.
the home videos?
My brother and I used to make movies all the time when I was in high school. Like anytime I had a report, I taught my teacher to let me do it as a video report, and my brother and I would go make a movie. I did a Star Wars book report. So basically, part of it was me and my brother just lightsaber battling on camera, and
Of
you know
course.
that's so that's what I got away with. It was awesome. This is high
I
school era.
took in high school. I took video production in class, and I still have all the DVDs that they're burned onto, and thankfully they are only in DVD form
Yes.
because I I don't think I ever want those seeing the light of day ever. We thought that we were doing great. Like we got an A+ on the projects and stuff like that. But looking back on it now, I'm like, that is not my calling.
Oh man. Well, I know as an actor, like and discovering, I think over the holidays, we had a lot of people coming through for dinners, and we have friends over for dinner pretty frequently, and conversations that get tossed around. And a lot of my friends are actors in some regard, doing commercials or whatever. And I remember one Thursday night, somehow we got talking about like, because I haven't really had a prominent commercial career. I tried it for a little while, and it just didn't work out for me. But I did do a couple of commercials early on in my career, and so I was like, yeah, I did these things. I did a Taco Bell commercial, and I'm kind of describing the commercial, and I'm like, yeah, I did this weird, Miller Lite commercial, and I described the commercial. And I just, again, sometimes I maybe old or seem older than I am, and I just didn't even think about it. And next thing you know, a buddy of mine's on his phone, and he's like, "I found them." I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Yeah." And so he finds these old commercials,
They're
and then
never going away.
they're never going away. And then literally, like right before Christmas, we were talking again, another conversation about old stuff, and I was talking about this pilot. I think it was probably the first pilot I ever did. That didn't get picked up, and it was this pilot called Rolling Thunder. And I like, again, you gotta have a tough skin, so I'm like, I'm fine. People watch it, that's fine. But it was this weird. It was like it felt like it was going to be a Saturday afternoon show as opposed to like an actual primetime show. They were really trying to turn it into a real show. It was called Rolling Thunder, and it was a group, like this weird A-team like group of people.
Nice.
We had the computer genius and the sexy girl, and the ex-military, and we all had different vehicles that shot non-lethal weapons. So all I remember is I think I was ex-military, and I remember I had a Humvee, like the old school Humvees. Somebody had a big dually truck, and somebody else, and they shot things like like oil slicks and glue that would stick bad guys up against the wall, and it was pretty bad. But
I would have loved it, honestly. So I have this thing where I'll explain this and then we'll get back, or I want us to kind of explain why we're here again, because I know it's halfway through.
We are at the midway point, and we just want to take a comment to let everyone know that we're here for the Ritter rally. We are raising money for the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health, and we're asking people to please donate. The link is scrolling at the bottom, as well as you can find it in show notes and everything like that. I know that we've all shared it on our personal social medias, and it does, like we said, the John Ritter Foundation. Now, Cress, do you have any? Were you ever blessed to meet John before? Did you ever have any past history?
Man, I wish I had. No, I grew up with John, like so many people. I mean, I think I have seen every episode, first and foremost, because I am that old, of Three's Company, like as it was airing. But and I think he was. I just he was such a like physical comical genius. It's almost like, especially for our time, like it's like like a kind of a version of a Buster Keaton. I would put him alongside of like maybe even like a Lucille Ball, and like his physical comedy was impeccable. But I wish I had.
So we thank you for, just being here to help us with that. And you've been telling about commercials and theaters and things, but something else that you were part of that was awesome was you voiced John Henry Irons in
Yes.
the Superman, Death of Superman, Reign of Superman films. What was it like to kind of do voiceover? Because I didn't see a lot of voiceover type stuff on your IMDb. How was that
Yeah.
different for you and bringing that character to life?
It was really, I mean, it was just so cool because, like I said, I didn't read a lot of comics, but I did watch a lot of cartoons. And so it was kind of getting a chance to really like scratch that itch for the younger me. And, and the journey was funny because like, I think, it was a 2-part movie. So I came in the first time and did, in the first movie, I had very little and then I had more to do in the second. And it was in between recording those that Black Lightning happened. Like I was there, and then when I came back to do the second one, I was like cast as Black Lightning, and I was doing that. And then I remember when we did a premiere in New York, and at that point I was Black Lightning. So it was like I was like, man, I'm like firmly in the DC family. It was really kind of cool. But like doing voiceover, I've kind of come to voiceover late, so that's why there's not a lot of my IMDb. I'm starting to do more of it now. It's a lot of fun, to just kind of roll out of bed and get ready to do something. I got a chance. I'm not sure when or where or when it's coming out, but there's like a Marvel kind of anthology animated series that's coming out, and I did a voice in a kind of Wakanda episode, which was a lot of fun because it was also very technical. Like we spent a couple of weeks with a dialect coach to get the precise kind of African accent. They're really distinct about what region and what they want the accent to sound like. So that was kind of taking me back to college days. To pick that up and then to kind of put it in. But like voiceover is just it's a version of acting. It's interesting. But like because all the in between, it's all about like bringing these things to life. But all the in between, you kind of toss away the listening and the kind of silence because that doesn't play an animation. It's really all about on the words. So it's a little different muscle, but it was a lot of fun.
That sounds awesome. Yeah, that was one of the questions that we had was, will we see Black Lightning one more time in Flash's final season? I've actually had a couple of friends that actually asked me to ask you that. So
No,
thanks,
of
George,
course.
for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, I imagine. I at this point I would say because I haven't. They're usually really good about reaching out like way ahead of time, and so um, I would probably say not. I mean, I haven't had anybody like reach out to me. Like it was interesting because the last time I was on, I was literally still in the midst of finishing the final season of Black Lightning, and almost a year before I even went and filmed it, they reached out and said, "Hey, will you like to come back and do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah." I mean, that's like almost like 6-9 months away, but at this point, yeah. And so we made it work. Um, but I kind of felt like, oh, it probably was the last time. On a technical note, like my suit was falling apart for some reason. I mean, it was a fight to keep so the lightning bolts that they're practically lit with battery on my suit, and for some reason, like it was almost like my suit was going, "This is my last go around," because it was like take after take, they would go out, and then we'd have to like scramble to try to get them back on again, and it was really bizarre, but nobody's
Okay,
reached out. So,
I do need to put this out there in the universe because I think it really needs to happen.
yeah.
But can we please bring Black Lightning back? I
Oh,
feel like uh so I feel like it didn't get the justice that it deserved. So I am a huge like superhero in general fan. So
okay.
I binge watch all of the superhero seasons that I can get my hands on.
Hmm.
It's a problem. And I feel like there was so much more that could have happened with the show.
Yeah.
And just ending it I feel like we didn't get like as much closure as I wanted personally.
Right, right.
Like I don't know, maybe I'm just being stubborn and
No, no, no. I don't
but
think so.
I'm like I would like some more, please. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree. You know, I mean, I think I envisioned. I think we all really envisioned a longer storyline, like a longer run. And there were definitely things that avenues and directions that I thought we could have gone that we didn't. At one point I kind of thought it'd be really cool if we had transitioned into Jefferson leading the Outsiders, um, and you could
I
have
know
really.
that they talked about a couple
Yeah.
like spin-off series.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that really, I felt like it really lent itself to that, and then you start to branch off, and in a sense create another, not Arrowverse. We were like, I think we would always talk about, oh, this could almost become the next Lightning verse if you start to branch off, you start bringing in Static Shock and all these different characters. It really
I'm
could.
okay with that. Though, like literally put it in all the different directions. I will I will watch it.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
You
I'm
know,
a
the
binger
thing was,
of everything.
Oh, we got
what was it like working with Bill Duke?
Oh man, yeah. So I mean, for those who don't know, and I mean, if you've watched anything, you will realize you've seen Bill Duke everywhere, and he is just, especially his most of his persona in life. I mean, on film, has been this like ominous. He plays a bad guy so well, and what's funny is that in life, he's so not like that. He is like the sweetest man. He's got great corny jokes and stories, and but I found, and so he was just so much fun to work with, and he kind of he's part of what I found is a consistent trend is that a lot of the actors out there that you see who are really good at playing bad guys and who play like bad guys all the time, when you meet them in real life, they're actually the sweetest. They're so the opposite. And I'm like, maybe the reason they can play bad guys so well is just because they are so sweet and they get to just explore another side. But like I worked with Donald Sutherland so many years ago, and he's played tons of bad guys, and he was like the funnest, warmest, great guy. Bill Duke was the same way. They just a great time to be around.
Now, I do want to say one thing about Black Lightning as a show is your portrayal of Jefferson Pierce actually changed my life. Straight
Wow.
up.
Wow.
You are like the amazing
the first
father
season.
that everybody needs.
Well,
Yeah.
I watched, Black Lightning, and I started because I love the idea. I have two small children,
Okay.
I had two kids, and I love the idea of this superhero who's, he's retired, he's done all this, but then he picks it back up and he's dealing with the father aspect. I thought that was a great fresh take. But what I
Yes.
loved was Jefferson Pierce as the high school principal, and it actually made me change my career to go back into something I had thought about years ago, was teaching. And I actually decided when COVID hit, I started putting all my effort into getting my teaching license and shifting into that. And it just, what you did as Jefferson, not just Black
Yeah.
Lightning, but within the school,
Yeah.
impacted me to like, that's the kind of person that I want to be more like as a character,
Yeah.
So your portrayal of just Jefferson, is effective. And I just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you so much. I mean,
Only were you a fantastic father figure throughout that movie. Like even at the beginning where you and, oh my gosh, I can't remember your wife's name in the series.
Lynn.
Even though you and Lynn weren't together, you guys still had that full family. Like you supported each other and you still kind of leaned on each other and stuff like that, which was fabulous because a lot of the times that's not how it works in a home that's split up.
Right.
And then, like he was saying, me and my husband were discussing this a while back. You as a a principal, and even when you were just a teacher at the school, you made such an impact. I know it was just television, but you made such an impact on children's lives. Like when they took you out from being principal, like all the students were like, basically, you know, go out and be a good person. And your whole staged, when you were up on stage saying, hey guys, I'm not going to be principal anymore, and they all stood up in support of you, like, I think honestly all kids need that kind of role model to look up to.
Yeah, that role
in
model.
life.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Well,
even
no, go ahead.
I'll say, even rolling into like one of my favorite things is like, I was so happy when you were brought into the Crisis event because I loved your interaction with Grant.
Yes.
When you two had that scene together, like I was like, that's the show that I want. You know, like that, because you know, you had this similar with the lightning powers, and like I was just like that. Listening to you two talk, like I was like, that's the show. Like I love the way these characters, and I even have my right here, a little pop of Black Lightning right here.
Awesome,
I got here as part of. But
that's
what
awesome.
was it? I mean, you know, not being the comic book person, and you know, auditioning for Black Lightning, what was it that made you want to do it? Was because I know originally the project was set up at Fox and it was going to be like a little bit more of a darker drama, and you know, of course, there's always the behind the scenes changes. What brought you to the character? Because there's a lot of social justice that was brought out in the series. What drew you to want to be Black Lightning?
Well, the thing is like, I honestly, you know, because I am a huge superhero fan, so I've been wanting to play a superhero for a very, very, very long time. And you know, like, as soon as it started to be a thing where it was like, oh, there are movies and even before TV shows really started to happen, I think, well, some of the early Arrowverse shows started happening. It was something I wanted to do. And I remember I went to church with a guy who he ended up writing. He's a writer, and so he ended up writing. I think he did Jessica Jones, and then some Luke Cage. But he was the first person who came up to me. I remember at one point, in years and years and years before, I think it's probably even before Black Panther, he was like, "Oh my God, dude, you should play Luke Cage." And I'm like, I don't, and I didn't know. I'm like, "Who's Luke Cage?" And he's like, "Oh, it's a superhero," and da 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 da. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then I wound up getting the actual graphic novel of Jessica Jones and reading that. And then later on that started happening, and I went and auditioned for Luke Cage, and I honestly really, just things that were going on in my life, I thought I was going to get that job. And everybody, or all my friends, I usually keep my business kind of private, but everybody knew that I wanted to play a superhero. Everybody knew that I wanted the job, and I didn't get the job, as we all know. and I was like just heartbroken, and I was rocked, and I reached a point where I was like, well, I'm on the other side of 40. Maybe this dream of playing a superhero as a bucket list thing is like just not going to happen. Maybe it's just passed me by. And then, like everybody else, I saw in the trades, as they say, about Black Lightning being done at Fox, and I didn't know of the character of Black Lightning. I just was, and I guess I had been so burned from really, really wanting the Luke Cage thing that I was just like, oh, that's interesting. And I was kind of like, if that comes my way, we'll see what happens. And then I saw that it had moved to CW, and my agent, like, I reached out to my agent. I think I reached out to when they were at Fox, and he said, no, you're on the list to be considered. So when it's time for them to audition, like, trust me, you're on their list. I'm like, okay, cool. So then it got moved to CW, and then all of a sudden I got a script, and it's like, here's the audition. And I read that first episode, and I, like, the hair in the back of my neck was standing up. I was just like, I told my wife, I'm like, oh my God, you got to read this. Like, and I don't always tell her to read something. I'm like, you got to read this. Because I wanted to play a superhero for the sake of a superhero. I didn't know a lot about Jefferson Pierce or Black Lightning. I just wanted to play a superhero. But then when I started reading it, I was like struck by how much I was drawn to Jefferson Pierce, like Black Lightning, of course, but like Jefferson Pierce, it was like something in me where I was like, I know this guy, and it was like I didn't want to say it because I didn't want it to not be true, but I was like, I think I am this guy, and I was kind of like, I don't think anybody else can do this, um, and I have 3 kids at the time. I had 2. Family is very, very important to me. Education is very important to me. I decided to, as an actor, to go to college, and even at the time, I taught on the side. I taught acting for like 8 years. So that teacher's mentality, all these things
Hmm.
were kind of already inherently in me. And even down to the day that I went to audition, um, my daughter, my oldest, was in a choir concert that night, and I had 2 auditions that day. I had one at Warner Brothers, and then I had to go all the way to the other side of town to audition for Black Lightning. And I remember I got there, and you're supposed to sign in on a little sign-in sheet, and that's what they usually go by. I got there, and I was so caught up in like just practicing and getting ready before going, I forgot to sign in. So suddenly I'm like,
Oh,
oh crap, I forgot to sign in. And since at that point, like multiple actors had signed in before me, so I put my name down, and all I could think about was like, I'm not going to make that concert. Like, I'm not going to make my daughter's choir concert now. So I remember I going in the waiting room. I'm like, hey guys, can I go? Because I got to make this. I got a choir concert. And again, actors are really cool, and they were like, yeah, no, go, no problem. And I remember the casting directors like, we got to get you to that choir concert. I'm like, yeah. And so I did my audition, and I felt like I did like a solid job, but it wasn't like fireworks and stars. It was just kind of like I just did what I knew I needed to do. I got on my motorcycle and I made it to the choir show in time. And like within a couple of days, they were like, "Oh, they want to test you for this." And I'm like, "Okay." And I went in and tested, and then they made me wait for I think a good couple of weeks because they were like, "Here's the thing." And my daughter heard it, and she doesn't really understand Hollywood. She's like, "You're the guy." This is what they said. You're the guy, but when you test, like that's the last step. That's when they take everything towards the network to say, here are our choices, pick. They never want to take just one person to a test because the network needs to have choices. And if they don't want the idea of like they bring one person and the network says, we don't like that person. What else do you got? Now we got nothing. Good, start over. So they never do that. So they're like, you're the guy, but we don't have any other choices. So they're gonna go out and audition some more people. Which they could audition more people. I had to explain this to my daughter. She's like, you got the job, right? I'm like, no. And she said, but you're the guy. And I'm like, no, no, no. They're going to go off and audition more people. They could go find another guy. Like,
Well, I'm glad they didn't.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
so it was like a week or so later that they finally called and said, job's yours. And I just, again, all the way through it, like Jefferson, I wanted to play a superhero, and I was really happy playing Black Lightning because when you're playing a superhero, it's like playing 2 different people. There's the alter ego, and there's the superhero. And but I fell in love with Jefferson Pierce, and was so proud of that, of what he represents. I've seen kids out in the world, grocery stores and stuff, and who recognize me, and I realized I was like, this is someone that they can be proud of, that I can be proud of representing. I mean, he represents family and education. I mean,
Exactly.
he's probably one of the most noble alter egos of a superhero I can think of.
Yeah, actually,
That's
I watched
why, yeah.
and yeah, you're pretty much awesome. Is what I'm
That's
basic.
that's why, like I said, it just the character impacted me as like a father and as just a person of what I want to mature and grow into more. Because I'm not old, but I'm older. Like I just wanted to change, and the character, was definitely like an inspiration for that. So we do
Yeah.
appreciate that. You did Black Lightning. It was a great show, and I was always championing for it because it was always one of the things that kind of like the show that kind of, I don't say people forgot, but it was just like sometimes I felt like, with my friends that all watched them, like that was one they did. And I was like, no, you have to watch this one. Like there's a different feel, tone, niche that it's touching that the other shows aren't hitting.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about the show, was more of the family, the father, the aspects that you took.
Well, I think that I think, you know, I mean, in hindsight, it's 2020, and people much farther above the food chain than me, I guess, made these decisions. But I think if we had joined, you know, because we were kind of late to the crossovers, and I feel like if maybe a season prior, if we had got into the crossovers sooner, then maybe it could have like opened people's eyes and said, "Oh, there's this other show." And
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
The last thing we want to say real quick.
I would love to talk to you for like 10 more hours. There's so many things that, like, Tyler and I have been talking for a month, trying to, like, what questions do we really want to ask and all this other stuff, and trying to figure out, like, what the most important things are. And we wanted to talk about What Remains and your newest movie.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, man, there's other people waiting, and we keep getting the curtain call, and they're like, "Hey, guys, it's getting close to the hour."
Yeah.
So,
do you want to? I can, if because I don't want people to like not get their questions. If there's questions out there, I'll try to be short. You want to rapid fire some questions?
Yes, let's rapid fire this.
Funny stories from Never Been Kissed. From the set
Funny stories Never Been Kissed. I mean, well, Never Been Kissed was like, for me, was primarily, I did a lot of improv on the screen. And in a lot of improv, like I remember Drew Barrymore coming in and she's like, "You look so," what did she say? She said, "You look so young. How is that possible?" And I just kind of improv'd. I'm like, fresh nuts and berries. I can't, but it was just, it was just a lot of fun from an improv standpoint, because I just sat at a blank screen and made up most of that dialogue.
What's your favorite movie and why?
Oh my God, that's real. That's not possible.
It's the hardest question ever for anybody.
That is, for a person like me. It's like, no, there's just too many. I mean, I love The Graduate. I love, I mean, obviously The Godfather. Christmas time, I always have to watch The Bishop's Wife because I'm just a huge fan of Cary Grant. It's just too many.
Well, on that note, we really do have to explain. I wish we had time to do all of the comments, because we've gotten so many comments in the comment section. But Tyler, would you like to remind people as to why we're here? And also, Cress, thank you for like literally everything. So
thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
We are here for the Ritter rally, raising money for aortic heart health, for heart health. I'm tongue-tied, but yes, Mr. Williams, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. We wanted to talk about What Remains because it seemed like a very personal film for you. I heard you talk about it a little bit online, and we're running out of time. Like, it's just, you have great conversation with great people. Time goes by, and it feels like you never have enough time for anything.
So if you ever want to talk to us, you know, we've got our own shows that we could spin off on. No, I'm kidding. But really,
well, I mean, yeah, reach out to my people and as they have, and you know, we'll try to make something work.
Yes, and perfect. I'm going to ask that George, because we don't have the technology on our side to play the video, but we do have a video explaining why we're here. And yeah, Tyler, thank you guys for being awesome.
No, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being here, Cress. Thank you.
It was nice meeting you, Cress.
Nice meeting you. Hope I'll see you guys again soon.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
All right, everybody. Thank you all so much for joining us for the interview with Cress Williams here. That was just a fantastic interview. Had a lot of fun getting learning everything about his career and all that and everything. So I'm waiting to see when our next host is coming up here for our next panel. Let's see here. So we have our voice actors panel coming up next here. Oh, here we go. Willow, where are you, dear? Oh, there we go. Oh, your mic is muted, dear.
Excuse the noise. I apologize.
Okay.
The next host is supposed to be in, but I guess I could step in a little bit here. I was just supposed to mod.
Okay. Waiting for them to show up. I don't see anybody
well,
just yet here.
If worst case scenario, I'll just step in for a little bit. But just ignore the people walking around the background if you see. So yeah, let's bring up our next panelists.
Okay, here.
The voice actor panel. So we have Jen Cody. Please introduce yourself. Oh,
I'm not hearing you, Jen.
Yeah, no, I went through the circuit. I had the thing running and all that kind of stuff. And now,
Nope, they've got no. I know you're muted.
How about that?
Hey, there we are.
Hey. Hi, everyone.
Hello, Jen. How are you?
I'm good. I'm Jen Cody. Happy and
Pleasure
excited
to
to
meet
be here.
All right. Next on, we'll bring on Chris Jowers as well here.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello, sir. Oh, and here we go. Here's our host here. Let's bring Carlin on here first off here.
Hey guys.
Carlin, hello, sir.
Sorry, small technical difficulty.
Oh,
no worries.
Problem, I'm going to dip off here and hand off to you and let you introduce the rest of your panel, sir.
Okay. All right. So, good morning, everybody. Or actually, it's afternoon now. So, afternoon to everyone.
Hi.
So we got Chris, we got Jennifer, Cody, and we are supposed to have some other people, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, perfect.
There's Aimee.
Hi.
And there's Brian.
Hey, hey.
All right. And there's Lauren. Okay, it looks like we're all here. So for you guys that don't know me now, Chris and I have known each other for years. I used to run a convention, so hosting panels is in my blood. I consider myself just to be the dad on the panel. I'm here to govern the reins in case things go off the rails. But I typically start off by having everyone introduce themselves just as a round table. And on my screen, I'm looking to my left and I'm seeing Chris. So I'll start with Chris first.
Okay. Oh, a little bit about background. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I'm on this amazing panel of a highly talented people. I am on the more amateur semi-pro team, I guess you would say. I've been involved in community and local voice acting for the past 12 years. I've actually just now starting a channel where I'm going to be doing a lot of individual and short form audio theater. My background is basically doing old school classic radio drama. I was with Chatterbox Theaters and currently with Spoken Signal, and we focus on doing traditional radio drama with professional quality, but using old school sound effects instead of using digital sound effects.
Cool.
And you do an awesome Joker.
Yeah, I'm pretty much known for that. And people
you should give us samples so they understand. Okay, and next I see Jennifer Cody,
Hey everyone.
who I have to say, my daughter's a little jealous because she's
Uh,
14, so Winx was a big thing in our house.
yeah. Yeah, I'm Jen Cody. I'm a New York actor, mostly on stage. I got into voiceovers, I guess, about 12 years ago, and kind of fell into it through the stage because I auditioned for Princess and the Frog, and that was like my first intro into the world. And like everyone, fell in love with getting able to work and wear a ponytail and not wear makeup, and it was great. And I was very fortunate to be able to work with some amazing people and get to do these really fun and wacky characters. So that's my story.
All right. So Lauren, and let me make sure I get this right, because I actually had to Google how to pronounce your last name. Is
Oh,
it
no,
Vanetsky?
okay, so that is my married name, but nobody can
Ah,
pronounce it, including my own family. We've been married, we just had our 16th anniversary. We've been together for 20 years, and they still can't pronounce it. So I record as LW Salinas. My name is Lauren. Salinas is actually my maiden name. And I primarily do audiobooks. I spent almost a decade working in genetics labs and ended up losing my job due to disability. Kind of kicked around for a year moping. Remembered, hey, I like audiobooks. Googled, how do you do audiobooks? I'm about to be done with my 38th. Actually, as soon as I'm done with this panel, I'm finishing editing, the last couple of chapters.
cool.
I've
cool.
done a few audio plays. In fact, that's kind of how I got into all this, doing background voices for a friend's thing. Then I got cast as a mom, and then I just kept showing up. I have been in a couple of dubs last year, including the one that I am probably most proud of right now. There's a movie on Netflix called Don't Blame Karma, and I play the mom in that. You do not know how tempted I was to wear my MILF mode t-shirt for this, but then I chickened out. And I'm sorry for my voice. I was at a wrestling show last night and was trying to save it, and then they announced one of my favorite wrestlers is going to be at the next show, and I kind of freaked out. But yeah, I mostly do audiobooks. I'm actually working with Jowers on a couple of upcoming projects. So
Not
that's
that
going to
guy.
be a load of fun. And that's me. I'm sorry for the mess. We just moved.
And okay, Brian.
Yes, hi everybody. My name is Brian. I am a voice actor as well. Obviously, I'm on the voice acting panel. But I started primarily doing impressions on YouTube just because, I thought it was fun. Then I got a career out of it, accidentally went viral. And now I've done voice work for Disney. I've done quite a bit with Sony now. My biggest project I've done so far is Hotel Transylvania 4. Adam Sandler didn't want to return as Dracula, so I got to step in and be the vampire. So that was a lot of fun.
So, and Aimee, you want to do a little brief intro on yourself?
Yes, sure. Hi, my name is Aimee Carrero. Sorry, it just says my first name on there. I didn't know that it was going to show. Anyway, I don't just go by Aimee. I'm like Gaia. My name is Aimee Carrero. I'm an actor. I have been very lucky to do a couple of voiceover jobs that people seem to like. I was the voice of Elena of Avalor on the Disney Channel, and she was the first Latina Disney princess. And then I did the voice of She-Ra in the reboot of She-Ra and the Princesses of Power on Netflix. And mostly I'm in front of the camera. I'm in a movie right now called The Menu, which you can watch on HBO Max if you don't want to go to the movies. But honestly, some of the proudest work I've done has been in the voiceover booth, and I hope that I can continue that. But yes, that's why I'm here.
All right. Well, thanks for doing the round table. Does anybody have anything they want to discuss about an upcoming project or anything that they want to do a tease on? I mean, I understand that, NDAs can restrict you, but if there's anything you want to push, now's your chance. And hearing nothing?
Oh, it's always so awkward to talk about yourself. Well, again, I teased that Chris and I are working on a couple of projects. You mentioned earlier that Chris does a tremendous Joker impersonation.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we might be working on some projects together as Joker and Harley. So that's going to be tons of fun. A lot of screaming. I can't wait. So therapeutic.
Okay, so now when I was cruising, okay, now you're gonna force me to pull into into my bag of notes. So Brian, I'm gonna tackle you first because I saw this on IMDb when I was cruising around. There was something that said Zack in Time is listed as upcoming.
Yes.
So what is Zack in Time going to be?
So Zack in Time is going to be an animated series that it's an independently done show that they're still in production on. But yeah, it's about this kid who finds this watch that can take him back in time. And this watch was developed by the scientist, and the scientist is trying to get it back. And there's this bad scientist who's trying to get it. It's the whole thing. So this kid gets wrapped up in this whole adventure, this whole thing that he knows nothing about, but yet he's stuck in the middle of the whole thing. And I'll be playing the main villain and the main villain's henchman, so I get to be my own henchman, so that's fun.
Okay. So let's say, Jen, what do you got going on? Anything cool?
Well, not in voiceovers right now. I'm working on a new stage play that's coming to Broadway. So that's kind of where my focus is right now.
Okay, and I mean, hey, I'm a theater guy. I like theater.
So we're working on the musical Broadway Vacation, which is the National Lampoon Vacation series, and
that was on my
family
list.
comes to Broadway, and it comes to New York City. So that's my project currently.
Well, when you come to Memphis, I'll probably be there.
Okay.
Are you doing an out of town preview, Jen, or where?
We did. We did it in Seattle this
Oh,
summer.
fun.
And we did an out of town at the Fifth Avenue there, and now we're back in New York, and I'm hoping for a theater. So
yeah, you'll get it.
Yay!
Now, Aimee, what about you? Because I mean, both of you guys have theater going on, and extensive theater.
Well, I wish. I mean, this last spring, I got to do "Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf" at the Geffen Playhouse in LA, it's just so fun to do theater in LA because usually I have to move to New York and lug my husband and my dog, and get no pay. You know what I mean? Dig into the savings to do it. So it was really fun to get to do it in LA, but. My next upcoming thing it's not a voiceover. It's for Amazon Prime. It's a show called The Consultant. And that's going to be with Christoph Waltz and Nat Wolff and Brittany O'Grady. And it's kind of a really twisted, I can't really describe it without giving it away, but it's sort of like a very deranged, twisted little workplace, dark comedy. So that'll come out, I think, in February. So that's my next thing.
How was it playing in Virginia? So you played Honey in Virginia Woolf. How was that? I mean, I remember seeing that play several years ago, and it was a good one.
Oh, it's a classic masterpiece. I actually had the privilege of being able to see it about just over 10 years ago now on Broadway with Carrie Coon in the role of Honey. And, the role of Honey usually, I don't know, like I just remember watching it and she brought it to life in such a way. She revealed new things. And so anyway, when I got the opportunity to audition, I was like, well, there's no way they're going to cast a Latin girl in this very clearly sort of waspy white play. But they did. And, every actor brings their own sort of flavor to the characters. And I personally think, and a lot of people might disagree, but theater to me is not like literature. It's not just like it shouldn't just be a timepiece or like a museum piece. I think that we revive them because they have something new to say, or even if they don't have anything maybe new in 2022 when we did it, there is something still very relevant about it that can hold up a mirror to what our society is sort of going through. And with Honey, I tried to find new corners of that, of her personality and how she speaks to this audience in, you know, post-pandemic 2022 audience versus 1962 when Albee wrote the play. So yeah, it was the time of my life. I felt like I ran 52 marathons and lived to tell the tale, because it's a 3.5-hour play, 3 intermissions. Yeah, it's a lot, but it was just amazing. It's one of those things where I'm not an athletic person at all. This is the closest I will get to an athletic experience probably. But it did feel like I just was like a warrior. I was like, I fucking did that. Can't take it away. So yeah, it was really great.
Brian, what about you?
Like more upcoming projects?
Yeah. Any cool? Well, yeah. Anything else going on?
None that I'm allowed to talk about.
Okay, cool.
Other than like my own YouTube channel and stuff, which is still, I'm still making videos, still making content. You guys are more than happy to go over, more than welcome to come over there. But yeah, it's all the cool voiceover stuff I can't talk about right now.
Now, Brian, you just mentioned something there about you being a YouTuber. So you get your degree, you're doing the YouTube scene, and then you get your break and get into the industry, right?
Sort of.
I mean,
it was all kind of a big accident. I was going to school in Texas, getting my degree in music, and just for fun, there was this contest online. It's like, sing your own cover of Let It Go. You could win a $100 gift card to the Disney store. I was a broke college student, and I was like, you know what? That sounds fun. I want a $100 gift card to Disney. And so I sang Let It Go as 21 different Disney characters just because I could do their impressions. And it went viral. And I was like, oh. So then, you know, agents out in Hollywood started talking to me. It's like, have you considered doing this? I was like, not really. I didn't think I was good enough. So then they encouraged me to give it a shot. Yeah, I was wrong. I was wrong. So I gave it a shot, and yeah, I've been able to make my living off of doing voice work and my online content work for like the last 8 years now. So it's been really exciting.
So how has getting into the industry changed over time?
And
this open to the entire panel. So how
okay.
has it changed over time?
Yeah, because I will say everyone continues to tell me I'm part of the new wave, I guess, where it's like I didn't submit to any agency, any demo. I got signed with an agency before I even had a demo, just because my channel apparently became my demo, and it was really just that one video. And I realized that that's kind of abnormal, even still now. I think I'm not 100% sure. I've only heard a couple people's stories. But from what I know, I don't know how it used to be, but I just know how I got here.
So Jen and Aimee, as a quick aside on myself, I actually run a career support group for people that are doing career transitions.
Oh,
So I'm a huge believer in maintaining your network at all times, because at the end of the day, your network is your net worth, because that's how it's how you land that next job. So how about you guys?
You know, it's interesting when you were saying, Brian, that it was your viral video. I actually, you know, I was an actress who sang, and so Disney came to New York to, which I think they still do, and they were looking for singers for Princess and the Frog, and so everybody on Broadway auditioned, like every single person. And I remember when it got to, I think we auditioned for, with all the callbacks, like almost up to a year. It was a really long process, and when it got down to I think the final four people for Charlotte, they were all famous, and I was I was not. And I remember it was like a Friday night at 4 o'clock, and my agent called and he said, "Everyone else has an album, and you don't. So can you go into a booth and record yourself singing like a bunch of songs, and we're gonna pass it off as your album?" And I did. I went into it. I couldn't even tell you what I sang. I just random songs that had nothing to do with the movie at all. And we sent that
So
in.
you
And
had to run down to the equivalent of Sun Studios and burn an album with like Elvis.
Had an album, yeah. And ultimately, I think I found out on the Monday then that I got it. But yeah, so that's how it happened here. And I think probably now I would have just come to my studio and sang in my booth, but that was 10 years ago. So I think that's how the industry has changed on my end.
Mm. I auditioned for, I moved to LA in 2009, and I didn't book my first voiceover job until 2014, and I was trying. So there's that. It took me a really, really long time to book any voiceover, and I actually just kind of gave up at one point. My agent kept sending me voiceover stuff, and I would record, on like, what's that, like GarageBand or something in my house, and I just never kind of like got any callbacks or anything, which was such a bummer. But my on-camera career was doing okay, so I thought maybe I'm just like not a voiceover actor. And then I was on vacation with my family in Dominican Republic, and I'd been like day drinking, and I got this email from my agent. "Hey, could you do this tape? It's for a Disney project, but like we're not allowed to say what it is, and we don't really even know, but I have a feeling that it's like a princess something." And I was like, okay. And I think it was maybe like that. I was like kind of drunk, and I just put it on tape, and they were like, I was like real loose, I guess. And so I went in and I started the process of auditioning for what later became Elena of Avalor, but it was all very secretive. I didn't know what it was for. And it wasn't until the press release came out that I knew that it was going to be like a spin-off of an existing property that they had called Sophia the First. And it's funny because I have an uncle who's an Imagineer at Disney. He's like an engineer that works at Disney in Orlando. His name is Michael Carrero. And so he got this like press release, and he was like, "Carrero?" Like all of his friends were like, "Do you know this person? We have the same last name." And that's sort of like how we all found out. And then from that, it's like what you were saying about the network. From that, then I had an opportunity to audition for She-Ra, maybe like 2 years after that. But yeah, I mean, it's still,
You all need a sword.
yeah, I know. I actually have I'll bring it over. I have like this old school, it's not the new She-Ra, but it's like the older She-Ra model, and it's like really amazing. But for me, it was just really, really tough to get in the door. Because unlike Brian and Chris and Jen and probably LW, like this is my voice. I can do a few other things, but I am by no means an impressionist. I have some characters, but really this is it. So I think that's maybe like how it's changed, is now they're hiring people who maybe fit the role. They wanted a Latina for Elena of Avalor. And I remember we had these great, just amazing guest actors on Elena and She-Ra. And there were actors that could do 10 characters, and they're like, they've been like in the business forever, and that's what they're known for. So I think that is a shift, I think, where they want to, if it's like a 6-year-old girl that is like, Latina, they want to cast a 6-year-old girl that is Latina, not just somebody who can do that. So that's a shift I've seen. But listen, those 2 shows were amazing. And I thought, I just kept on with my on-camera career, and that's been keeping me busy. But I still it's not the same as far as on camera. Like, you do an on camera thing, some people like it. Maybe you start getting a few offers. I still get auditions. I still don't get them. I still don't get those jobs. So it doesn't really, it's a very different side of the business, and it's tough. It's really tough.
Quick question. Is there an audio lag on me? Because I'm noticing a video lag. Just wanted to double check. No. Okay, great. since along with this whole discussion, when I was, of course, one of the things I did was hit the IMDb, and I'm scrolling down looking for interesting factoids, and it never fails to make an impression on me when I start looking at someone's IMDb career, and it's so many of them are one-hit appearances on a TV show, or there is a constant hustle. I know that when you land that series job, you're like, oh yes, it's a steady gig, but you guys are out there. Like you just said, you guys are out there auditioning on a regular basis.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, it just never fail. You think, oh gosh, it must be nice to be doing this, and it's like, no, they're working, they're hustling every day. They're doing that sales job.
It's always funny when someone says, oh, like even if you do a show, they're like, oh, you're in a Broadway show, you work 3 hours a night. And you're like, no, I'm also auditioning all day. I'm taking class. I'm still learning. It's so funny to me. Yeah, and the series they're so great, but then they end.
My wife and I on Monday we're getting tickets to Spamalot that's coming to one of the local theaters, and that's been on their calendar for a year. So I'm sure that the cast has been studying this for months.
Oh no,
to make sure
they probably were cast just a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to learn all the lines, you've got to get your pacings, you've got to find your chemistry with the people you're working with. Yeah.
That usually starts 3 weeks before.
It's wild. Yeah. I mean, you don't get that much rehearsal. And then, people are like, how did you memorize all those lines? I'm like, by the skin of my fucking teeth. I don't know. Like 3.5 hour play. Like we had 4 weeks of rehearsal. That's all we got. And I wasn't cast, like we had in that show, we had Zachary Quinto, Callista Flockhart, who were our George and Martha, and they'd known they were going to do it, so they had a few more weeks to prepare. But there were two of us, we didn't have that much time.
Yeah, and then even on the voiceover side of things, there's a few things that I've been cast for, where I walked in the door and I don't even know like what character I got cast as. They're like, "Oh, here's the name of your character. Can you tell me anything about them?" No. What lines did they say? We're not telling you. So I walk in, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do for this character, but you cast me for a reason. So okay. So you kind of have to come up with stuff on the fly. Even with some of the bigger stuff, like when I was on Hotel Transylvania, I didn't get a script sent to me. It was every time you go in the booth, there it is right in front of you. So everybody's like, oh, why do you guys read your lines? Why don't you memorize them? Like, because we don't get them, because they're normally doing last minute revisions until like an hour before you get in there. So every once in a while I got lucky and they'd send me like an animatic just for one of the scenes that was a little trickier, but usually you don't know what you're going to say till you look at that script, and you've got to come up with what they need to say immediately.
And you had mentioned Winx Club beforehand, and Winx Club was all in Italian, and so we would go into the booth with our English lines, trying to lip dub and lip match Italian, and that was the hardest job I ever had. I would just sit and sweat and just like glare at the screen and be like, I'm so mad, and try to like fit it into this Italian girl with no clothes on, So like that's also hard, that people don't know. That's another aspect of voiceovers that it's a whole different talent.
I don't think I ever knew that was originally Italian. All I knew is I had a little girl who wanted every Winx doll there was.
Yeah, and when they made it into English, the girls, the young girls and the witches were very scantily clad, so they had to draw more clothes on all of them for America.
They're like, you prudish Americans, here, have a top.
Too much cleavage. Yeah.
I'm really curious, Lauren, like, do you have to audition for audiobooks? Like, how does that process work? Oh, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Oh, I was wondering why I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, sorry. So yeah, it's a lot of auditioning. I mostly do indie audiobooks through like ACX and Findaway. I, as a marginalized person of several different strains, I really love doing own voices stuff, and you tend to find a lot of that in any really indie field because there's such a lower kind of barrier to entry. But yeah, I so many auditions. You get a little sample of, like maybe 3 pages, maybe 1 or 2 scenes. You go through that. You do, I'm one of the people who tries. I don't do, I think, really character voices, but it's like, okay, this one medium pitch reminds me of whatever thing I'm currently watching. So I'll just try and do sort of that sort of feel. And most of the time you get no answers. It's kind of like all of the voiceover stuff that I audition for, it's so rare for you to actually get any answer with some sort of feedback. It's just,
Oh, yeah.
this is airing now, and I never got a call back. I forgot about that.
100%, yeah.
And yeah. And I like to keep all my money. So I do my own, I taught myself my own editing. My podcast producer of the last, I don't know, since 2014 maybe, taught me everything I know about editing. Thank you, SP. And do all that, do the editing, send it in, get into the next one. Yeah, it's I love doing the stuff where it's okay, this is all written down, because I was trying to say earlier, except I was muted.
Oh.
It's like magic, y'all memorizing stuff. I have the memory of a goldfish. I can't memorize. I can memorize, any line from
There you
Star
go.
Wars. It's like I can play the whole movie in my head. But you ask me to remember like a 30-second ad read, and I'm like, I can't do that. My brain does not have the space for that. So I love cold reading. That's one of the things I love going into. The few sessions that I've done have all been, okay, here's your lines. We're going to try and tweak them on the spot so you can match the mouth flaps. I get so, there's a podcast I love that they talk about bad movies. And every time they talk about this one particular anime series made by a cult, they are always saying, it's like, okay, the lines they're saying are good, the captions are good, but they don't mix up. And I'm like, there's a whole reason for this. Please just listen to me. Also, I'm very sorry if I wander off target. Again, brain of a goldfish.
We just had a comment come in. Jen, can you talk about the Tiana show?
No, no, I'm sorry. So yeah, the Tiana show is a new show that's coming next year, hopefully. And don't really know a lot about it. I know that all the characters will be on it. To what degree, I'm still not sure, but very excited. I think the year Princess and the Frog came out was the same year as Up. And I think a lot of the hype was lost, and I really do believe like Princess and the Frog is a beautiful film, and it was the last hand-drawn film of Disney, at least at that point. And a lot of the animators were like the classic animators who did all of the movies we all grew up on. So I'm glad it's getting some kind of reboot. Hopefully the new rides at Disney World and Disneyland will also do that. I'm still very close to Michael Leon Woolley, was the alligator. The sad part about filming that kind of thing, unlike cartoon TV shows, is that we never got to do anything together. So we met at events and things, but that whole movie, was one person by themselves in a booth on various coasts. So I'm excited for the people being brought together again, and that Tiana's voice will be heard again. So that's all I can say.
Oh, no, Jen, you just brought up something. I mean, when you're doing voiceover, a lot of times it's just you in an empty booth. It's you, and so it's not like, I mean, everyone knows that Mark Hamill just came out with a article the other day saying he's probably not going to be doing the Joker anymore because Kevin passed away, and he felt like they were a working pair. Um, are there groups of people, I mean, in voice acting that you've paired up with that you're like, I can't wait to do another project with this person?
I don't know about, I mean, I know Disney, my work with Disney was always by myself. So when I booked She-Ra, I was expecting the same, but I don't know if it's a DreamWorks thing or a Netflix thing, or maybe just our showrunner, Nate Stevenson, wanted us to all be together in the booth as much as possible. So that was really fun because that had not been my experience on Elena of Avalor. It was a great experience nonetheless, but it was just, they sort of have to be okay with a little overlap. You have to be okay with it feeling a little less crisp, which I think really worked for She-Ra. I don't know if it would have worked for Elena, but that was like, I realized while we were doing it that it was not common, and it was a real gift to be able to record together and look into somebody's eyes while you're saying a line to them, and hearing how their performance sort of influences your performance. Versus having one person's performance locked in and you just, you know what I mean? So it was great. And I haven't had an experience like that since, but I think it's really worthwhile if people are willing to sort of work around other people's schedules and make it happen. But it does require a lot of like bending over backwards for a lot of people that maybe have like series jobs and things like that. But I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, I got to be in the room. We did a Nickelodeon cartoon called Robot and Monster. And it was a comedy, and it really helped having everybody together. I find voiceovers a little bit like TV in that when you're alone in the booth, you have a lot of leeway, and you get to do lines a lot of different ways. But unlike a play, you're not reacting off someone. Yeah. You do a line 3 different ways, and you don't know what the editing is. You don't know which one they pick. You don't know, So to me, it feels a little like TV in that respect, is that you're creative, but it's really not your choice how your character ends up. But on Robot and Monster, we were all together, and someone would do something funny a little way, and then it would change what you did. And it felt very much like a organic play. And yeah, I really love doing it that way. But I guess, it's like, it's easier when someone's drawing a cartoon to have options.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Any comment, Brian? Oh, we got another one here. Ruby Elliott. I haven't talked to Ruby in a while. For Aimee, what was it like to play D&D on Critical Role for the first time with tons of people watching?
I was sweating.
I guess emphasis on tons.
Yes, it was very very nerve-wracking for the people who don't know what Critical Role is. There's a bunch of voice actors actually. Matt Mercer, oh my God, Marisha. It's amazing. They have Ashley Johnson, like all the names I'm putting in now. But they started a Dungeons and Dragons game in their living room, and then they started streaming it, and then it became this enormous thing where they have hundreds of thousands of people who watch every week. And but it kind of keeps them in LA and not able to do other things. Oh, what is that?
Oh, I'm sorry. It was Free Comic Book Day a
couple
years ago.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
So they have these, incredible. They had their first incredible campaign. They had a second campaign, which was also incredible. And I think they were all just like, "Hey, we'd love to go on vacation. Can we expand the brand? Can we hire some more people to run some games?" And so that's how I sort of got involved in Critical Role. They did like a short form campaign that lasted I think it was 6 or 8 episodes, and it was sort of an offshoot of the Critical Role world called Exandria Unlimited. But I had to learn. It was like learning a new language, and I'm still learning. Dungeons and Dragons is like very complex, and you have to know a lot of rules. You know, if you're playing at home, like you don't really have to know, but when people are watching, you want to also put on a show. There's that added pressure of like, you don't want to stop and be like, I'm sorry, what does it mean when I say that I want to do this spell and do I get a bonus action? It's just boring to watch that. So yeah, I picked a character that had lots of charisma and absolutely like zero in-game good mechanisms, because I just knew that like I would not be able to deliver in that way. But it's been one of the best experiences of my life. I love the Dungeons and Dragons community, and there's so many voiceover, sort of like the Venn diagram of like people who love cartoons and people who play Dungeons and Dragons. It's almost like a circle. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of crossover there. So I've just found it to be a really wonderful, welcoming community. And that has been my experience in the voiceover world as well. And it's just been amazing. And every time they ask me to come back, I will do it. I'll do craft services for them. Like I'll clean their toilet. Like I don't care. I just love the community so much.
Can I thank you for making Byron Fantasy Laredo? I actually lived my teenage years in Laredo.
Whoa.
And yeah, through the early 2000s.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yep. So you never hear Laredo mentioned anywhere. So it's just like the second I heard that, excuse me?
Yeah. Well, you know, Matt Mercer created this entire world, and there, you know, there's like maps and shit and books. I mean, it just all came from his mind. And I asked him, I was like, look, I want my character to be, I knew a few girls from Laredo, they're my friends, and they're just the best because it's a border town and they're like American, but also they have this rich culture. It's almost like what Staten Island is. It's like very close to everything else, but it's still its own sort of ecosystem. And
it's really hard to explain. It's like its own little like country. In fact, there's a museum there for the former what it was like Republic of the Rio Grande. I haven't been back to Laredo in like years.
So I asked Mercer, I was like, where can she be from? I want her to be like very strange and like, but very fabulous and sort of doe-eyed and very sheltered. And where could she be from? And he was like, how about by Rodin? We can make that. And then, you know, and that's it. But it was just so fun.
Quick side comment of my own based on what Aimee was just saying. It makes me wonder where YouTube should have been when I was a kid, because as a high schooler, I took Latin. So when I did D&D and I had a wizard, I made the spells.
Wow.
Like, Circum ignis ad me hostium is ball of fire to my enemy.
Wow. That's amazing.
Whoa.
I love it.
I could have been an early YouTuber, Brian.
You could have.
Although it would have been probably on AOL at the time.
Oh, memories.
Oh man.
Chris, I think we have an option for another local convention. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, very possible, man. I mean, that's always, people are always interested in YouTube stuff, man, big time.
So I meant to ask this a little bit earlier, and this kind of goes along with some of the things we've been talking about just in the general industry, but we're coming off of the pandemic, things are coming back to life and all that. But I also noticed, I was actually looking forward to a show showing up on TNT, and I've realized that there's a lot of shows that are being canceled, and they're claiming, they're taking tax write-offs or whatever. And as a CPA, I understand what they're doing, but I also question it. But what do you guys see going on in the industry? Are jobs picking up, or is it kind of still tight?
Well, I'll start being the New York girl. I live also right in off of Times Square, so I could tell you a little bit about that industry. In that, for 2 years it was dark. We didn't have a single thing in New York City, and I think they say that the revenue from Broadway shows is actually more than all of the sports teams in New York combined. Wow. And it's not just the shows, but it's also the restaurants and the parking garages and all that. And it was dead. It was the saddest. It's the whole New York City. The life was gone. And even though we came back and started doing shows about a year ago, it's just now coming back because the audiences have to come to New York, and they're just still not doing it. So a lot of shows, in fact, I think we had 4 close on Sunday. It's just still not there, that part of it. But television, I feel like my friends, everybody's on a TV show now because we have Netflix and Hulu and Stars. And, like, it just feels like I don't even know the shows half the time. They're like, oh yeah, I just did, an arc on this show. And you're like, what is that on? And then they name some platform you never even heard of. So I think that's been going well. The whole pandemic, I think, has opened up, at least in New York City, the television the world that we didn't have before.
For indie audiobooks, at the beginning of the pandemic, it was this really frustrating place of there's all of a sudden so many people unemployed who are like, hey, maybe I can get into this. So there's just this glut of new narrators showing up. But it costs money to make audiobooks. And if you're an indie author who's doing your indie audiobook, that's coming out of your own pockets. And it is not cheap to produce an audiobook. People way underestimate how many hours of work it is to record this, let's say, 8-hour book, plus the editing time. It's going to be at least 2 to 3 times as much time as the whole story is to record. And then again, maybe 3 to 4 times that to produce. So there was so little work for a while there. Last year was the worst year of my career so far. I'd only did 2 projects, 2 audiobooks. I did a couple of dub projects. But you're starting to get people are having money again. We'll see how long that lasts, but yeah, it helps to, again, be on a series. I am currently working on the 2nd book in a series about the effects of, it's a fiction book about sex trafficking. And I'm about to start a trilogy about a psychic all-femme polyamorous trio. And I did so many of those, all of the romance series where it's like, okay, well, there's these brothers that all have to get married. And so each book is a different brother or cousin or friend or whatever. And, that kept me in business for like 2 years working with this one author on a couple of different series.
Oh, that's cool.
And yeah, it's starting to equilibrate again, but I know with the limited stuff that I have with voiceover and the voiceover community and VO Twitter, the pandemic opened up so many, people from everywhere. You didn't have to move to New York or LA or Dallas. You could record if you had access to a good studio, or if you had your own home studio and good quality audio, you could record pretty much anything. And with, again, the own voices thing, you started to get a lot more people trying to cast authentic representations of whether it's a disabled character, autistic character, minority, queer, whatever. So it was incredible to see that open up, and you're starting to see it try and close again. So as not quite an outsider, it's been really interesting watching that all, again, try to equilibrate.
Oh, Kristen is popping in, and it says, Brian, have you ever considered singing a pop song as a Disney character?
I've done plenty of videos doing that as multiple Disney characters in the same song. But I don't know if I do one where it's like just Goofy singing the whole thing from like beginning to end or something. But, I've got a ton where I sing pop songs as other characters. Like I did a Bohemian Rhapsody with like 30 different characters, I think I did. So that was an interesting one. Everybody from Timon and Pumbaa to SpongeBob to Scooby-Doo and Winnie the Pooh, and there's a bunch of guys in there.
I'm sorry, but now I really need to hear Goofy singing WAP.
That's just like the best karaoke trick ever. Like I remember once going to a karaoke bar and some guy got up and did. I don't know if it's like, do you hear the people sing something from Les Mis where it's like a ton of characters, like one of the last songs, and he did like all, you know, different characters in that one thing, and I just thought it was the best thing I'd ever heard. It was so fun. It was so funny. So I would just pull that out every karaoke night if I had that skill.
Oh, it is a lot of fun, especially with a bunch of people who don't know you can do it.
Yeah.
And then
Oh,
you
I
do
bet
it.
it's just amazing.
Oh, it's pretty fun. Funny thing was, I figured out I could do this in middle school or high school, and it became a thing. There were a few lunch times at that time where I just ended up going from table to table to table to table, just putting on little shows at lunch,
Wow.
just because people asked for it. And then the next table heard it's like, oh no, come do that over here. So it was definitely interesting getting that thing that used to just, you know, drive all the teachers kind of crazy is now my job. So
Yeah. I'm so curious, Brian, do you are you like, do people come to you to do voice match a lot? Like, is that part of it? Does that translate into your skill set? Okay, that's so hard. I
Yeah.
just can't imagine being able to do that. It's so hard.
Yeah, what's really interesting was there was one episode of Tangled the series that I was on,
Mhm.
and it was one episode Rapunzel got like sent back in time, and everyone saw and heard her as a teenage one of the Stabbington brothers from the film. You remember the big dudes who were with Flynn
Yeah.
Rider stealing the crown? So everyone saw and heard her as this teenage Stabbington brother, but Ron Perlman, who does the voice, didn't want to come in to do it. He
Yeah.
didn't think he could get the voice high enough to sound like a teenager, so I had to do the voice of Stabbington brother as a teenager, as if Rapunzel was saying it. So Mandy Moore recorded her lines for those, so I had to hear her in my ear and then say that as a teenage version of Ron Perlman as Rapunzel would have
Oh my
said it.
God.
So it was had so many things going in my head.
Yeah.
You know, you have this voice and you're trying to really get that down. And then you hear Mandy Moore in your head, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. So I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
That's amazing. That's so
Wow.
rad. I'm
Oh,
dying to
thank
hear
you.
Chris's Joker impression now. I just feel like
Do it.
Go ahead, Chris.
I
Do it.
do a very tribute. I do not try to mimic the master, but I do a tribute to Mark Hamill.
Okay.
Because I have done hospital visits as part of a character group as the Joker.
Wow.
So I was able to go to Le Bonheur Hospital twice as the Joker. And Mark Hamill's voice is perfect for that because kids love him and all that. And I do another one that's a bit of a darker, more original sort of take on it. But so this is my ode to Mark Hamill Joker voice. You know, there are times as I look out my window and I look at Gotham City and I think, it's mine. Harley, get the car.
Insane. That's so good.
That is fantastic.
Namaste. Thank you so much.
Wow.
So actually, Lauren and I are working on a project because I've been doing voice acting more as a passion. I've been in education and nonprofit as a career for a very long time. But this was I was in theater very, very briefly in college and high school, but voice acting just became my theater passion. And so we're going to be doing some very small, some very original content stuff. And I've been very lucky that we've gotten some actually great actors. People that are Batman was in Army of the Dead. He is a stunt actor. His name's Les Price. He's done a lot of independent and some mainstream horror movies. So he's coming in to do our Batman voice, and it's just a project. We're going to do about 2 or 3 of them a year, but they're very short form, just for fun. But what we're going for is professional quality. So everybody again, and for some people, it's getting their name out there, but for other people, it's like, you know, everybody wants to be Batman. Everybody wants to be the Joker.
Yeah.
We'll try to do it on our own.
There is a couple more comments that I've seen, and I missed one. Stephen Kirk, I deeply apologize, my friend. He's asking if people can talk about their home recording studio setups.
I know for me at least, where I am right now is my recording setup, but I'm very lucky where I moved into. We ended up building this room into the house. So three of these walls plus the roof have soundproofing in them that we put into to get it as soundproof as possible. So that way I don't have to do a whole lot to the walls, but the floor is carpeted. The ceiling has got eggshells from the entire length of the whole thing, eggshell foam. And then, so yeah, that makes it a lot easier. I can kind of record anywhere within the room pretty much, and I get really decent sound, which is great because I'm not only just doing audio for voice work, but I'm also filming videos and whatnot for YouTube, and we're doing podcasts and other things like that. So it's nice to have the entire room really good, pretty good sound quality that I can record anything from home. I can do my own projects from home. It's pretty much it's a space that I can do whatever I need to in it. And I've got this mic that I use for live streaming and stuff like that. But then I've got my really good voiceover mic with like a TLM 103 and stuff. But yeah, it's a lot of time, and this was a lot of years getting to the point where I can have something like this. But I started off with just a bunch of towels in my closet, trying to hide a little space with my laptop, just like, I hope I don't bug the neighbors.
I have a New York studio, I like to call it. It's a closet. Right now, this is like my kit that I take on the road. But I have a half of a closet that is soundproofed and not great. It's still, when I'm in there recording and there's a siren in New York City, I got to pause. There's no soundproofing good enough. But I think most people in New York, because we don't have a lot of space, have found really creative ways to make do with about a foot of space up and down.
This is my first time out of a closet. I have previously had really very, very cramped closets where I hated recording in the Texas summers, especially my very first one, because our air conditioner was right next to where I was recording. So we had to turn the AC off every time I was recording. Oh, it was terrible. Yeah, currently this room, I'm in the process of sound treating it. I have my really nice sound absorption panels that I got myself for Christmas 2 years ago up. And I have, this is my Rode NT1 mic. It's served me very well. I previously used a Shure. And I use an Onyx Producer 2.2 mixer. And I'm currently using a DBX.
And I just got our
Blanking on the name.
admin
Anyway, yes.
time warning. So
Mine is real easy in that it doesn't work, which is maybe why I don't book a lot of voiceover work, which is my closet or my car. And I have no fancy equipment. Yeah, so I should get that on that.
well, it is now 1:57. Actually, it's 2:57 by my time, but hey, who's counting? I just want to say thank you for everybody for showing up, helping us raise some funds for the Ritter Foundation. And with that, they're probably going to be running our promo ad in just a minute. But I wanted to thank everyone for showing up, and it's been a wonderful time talking with everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
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 Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Oh, I guess we're
We lost our.
Hey,
Hang on. Let's
yep,
put
we
our
lost.
celebrity. No, we have Brian. I'm sorry.
Brian, we still got him.
Okay,
It's all
Brian. Carlin forgot to ask. Where can we find you?
You guys can find me at Brian Hull's Voice on just about every platform: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, all the things. You can find me there. And yeah, hope to see you there for more random awesomeness.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Chris, where can we find you?
You go to my website, chrisjowers.com. The voice companies that I've been with, Chatterbox and Spoken Signal, there's links to all their stuff, and it's absolutely free. These are people that do it for the love of the game. So please feel free to know my writing, my upcoming projects that Lauren and I will be doing together. We'll be starting off there as well.
All right, and Lauren?
So you can find my website at lwsalinas.com. It has links to everything I've done. You can find me on Twitter at Sithwitch if you really want to see me post pictures of possums and yell about wrestling. And I can be found, well, hopefully now, weekly again, on the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. podcast on the Gonna Geek Network, talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We will be recording tomorrow morning before all of the events start, so
excellent.
There's no conflict, but you can find us at legendsofshield.com.
Wonderful. And Jen and Aimee are out, but Jen is jencody.com, jen-cody.com, and Aimee is aimee-carrero.com. So please look up all these amazingly talented actors. You all rock. Thank you so much. I'm going to kick you all out and bring in our next host and guest. Thank you. This was a wonderful panel. Thank you, Carlin, for hosting.
Problem. Looking forward to tomorrow.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey, Brian, show up for tomorrow. It's going to be fun.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's B-list comic characters.
Yeah, that is
I'm
going
in that
to be.
panel.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that panel.
Yes.
All right. So let's bring in our interviewer, who is my good friend, Steve Fischer. One sec. Sorry. Okay. Hi, Steve.
Hey.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for waiting patiently for
no
your
problem.
panel.
Oh, sure.
And we're also going to bring in our guest, Armin Shimerman, who is just beloved in geek circles. Welcome, Armin.
Welcome.
Thank you. That's quite an introduction. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you well.
Yes, we can. I'm going to pop out and let you two chat. I just wanted to introduce you. I also want to say that I was introduced to you on Buffy. And even though you played the villain, I still love you. You played a fantastic villain, like just absolutely fantastic.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
of course,
It was a great pleasure to be on Buffy, and I missed those people.
yeah, I can imagine. So thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to your interview. I'll be in the background pulling the strings with the comments. So, all right, go to it.
Bye-bye, Kelly.
Bye.
Well, hello there, Armin. For all the people that are out there, this is Armin Shimerman. You may know him most from maybe Star Trek Deep Space Nine. He was Quark. You may know Dr. Nefarious from Ratchet and Clank. Kelly was just alluding to Principal Snyder from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He's been in lots of television shows. He does Shakespeare. He teaches Shakespeare. And some other characters that you might not know. There are characters named Morgan DeWinter, Kelly Edwards, Dr. John Dee. These are characters that Armin has created as an author. And a lot of people know, oh, he's Quark, he's on TV, but he is an author, and he's written a whole series of books. And I think your first book, was that The 34th Rule?
No, my first book was Merchant Prince.
Oh, okay.
And the 34th Rule was a collaboration with David. We we tried to sell it as a episode to Deep Space Nine. They didn't buy it, so David suggested we write it as a novel, and that's the 34th rule.
Okay, very nice. And then I know the Merchant Prince series. You have the Merchant Prince, Outrageous Fortune, and Capital Offense, and they came out in the early 2000s. That science fiction, I've read it. I love it. And why don't you tell us who the main character is? Dr. John D. Why don't you tell people who John D was in?
Right. Well, the Merchant Prince series it is science fiction, and it deals with an Elizabethan character, as Steve said, Dr. John D. John D was a real person who had the largest library in England at the time. He was a scientist. He was an engineer. He was a mystic. Elizabeth asked him. He was also an astrologer and astronomer. As an astrologer, she asked him for the most propitious day for her to start her reign, Elizabeth I, and he proposed, I believe it was November the 17th. I believe that's the day, and she got crowned on that day, and attributed her long run to many things, but one of them was that she had been crowned on December the 17th. John Dee was a courtier in the Elizabethan court. He taught a lot of people about science. He tried to help to find, I believe it's latitude. Was he latitude or longitude? I don't remember. He was just this great Renaissance man who, unfortunately, has gone down in history as somewhat of a kook, because he spent most of his life trying to communicate with angels. And unfortunately for him, he had several people who went into trances. They were called screers. And they told John Dee that they were communicating with heaven. And he set about asking heaven questions. And in the course of the years that he worked with these screers, he formed a dictionary called the Enochian Dictionary, which was the dictionary of angelic language. And because of those endeavors, history has not looked kindly on him. But in the recent 75 years, people have found him and are very awed by the scientific and engineering things that he was able to accomplish. It is also possible, and that's what my present books are about. It's also possible that John Dee interacted with William Shakespeare and may have been responsible for some of Shakespeare's successes. Certainly, John Dee is considered to be the role model for Prospero in The Tempest. Many people consider Dee to be the person that Shakespeare was thinking about when he wrote The Tempest.
Very nice. And so I know for those people that might not know the Merchant Prince series, it is a science fiction series, and not, no giving spoilers away. But I will say that John Dee is transported from his Elizabethan time to the year 2099 and has to try and figure out this whole new world.
How to get back. Yeah.
And this whole new world. And I loved the dynamic of him seeing things and being told things, but still thinking supernatural. Like, he's got computer monitors that he can see what's going on, and he thinks there must be a demon inside somehow showing him things, because he can't understand technology. And I really thought that was really fun. And I liked that he, throughout all three books, continued to speak in the Elizabethan tongue, and people always would, you have a funny way about your speech. Why? And that's how he spoke.
Right. One of the things you mentioned earlier, that I was a Shakespeare teacher, and I am. I do quite a bit of that. In fact, I just came from one just moments ago. And one of the things I instill upon the people who come to my lectures is that one of the difficulties with understanding Shakespeare is not thinking like an Elizabethan. Is the world has changed in 400 years, and there are a lot of things that we consider to be everyday situations that they would think of as supernatural. So my attempt in The Merchant Prince was to keep that Elizabethan way of thinking and speaking while he's involved with all this modern technology in a modern world. Not so modern. It's in the future world.
Yes, yes. It was great. And I know that you have 3 new books, or three current books with Dr. D taking place back in the Elizabethan times, the Illyria series, Betrayal of Angels, Sea of Troubles, and Imbalance of Power.
That's right.
I backed those on Kickstarter, so I am looking forward to getting them because I have not yet read them, but I am very much looking forward when they come in to read them. What is it? Because I know you've done a lot of TV and theater and whatnot, but what was it that made you want to start writing?
It's the other way around, actually. I wanted to write long before I wanted to be an actor.
Okay.
And if I may put it this way, I was seduced by the dark side of the force, and was convinced that I was a workable actor. So, but I always wanted to write, and I got the opportunity to do it. I was sitting at a Star Trek convention, and next to me was a man from a publishing company, an editor and a publisher. And he asked me if I would be interested in writing, and those early ambitions rose to the fore. And I said yes. And he put me in contact with a very good writer named Michael Scott from Ireland, who has written a lot of fantasy novels and is a wonderful writer. And Michael and I sat down and worked out the plot for Merchant Prince, the first Merchant Prince novel. And I've been writing ever since. The first book was with Michael Scott. The second one was with Chelsea Yarborough, and the third the third book that you mentioned, I wrote by myself. But with Michael, because I was a beginning writer, he wrote about 40%. Excuse me, he wrote about 60% of it. I wrote about 40% of it. With Chelsea Yarborough, I wrote about 60% of it. She wrote about 40% of it. And as I said, for the third book, it was completely me. And in the new set of books, what I call the Illyria series, that's all me. And again, I'm dealing with an Elizabethan character. However, it is not science fiction. It is a political period piece, a mystery piece. And again, I try to emulate the speaking style of the people of that time, trying to make it not so difficult, but
sure,
certainly to give a flavor of that, and to get people to, in a sense, take a time machine back 400 years into Europe and England of 1583.
Well, we have a question from Kristen Mary. She wants to know, what is your favorite Shakespeare play? I know you don't like to play favorites. When in interviews you say, well, don't give me a favorite, but I mean, what do you like?
It's true, I don't like to have favorites. So usually my answer, if I'm pressed to the wall, is whatever play I'm doing at the time. So if I'm doing Hamlet at the time, then Hamlet is my favorite. If I'm doing Timon of Athens, Timon of Athens is my favorite. If I'm directing Twelfth Night, then Twelfth Night. If I'm writing about Twelfth Night, which is what the Illyria series is about, then Twelfth Night is my favorite. So since I'm talking to you about the Illyria series, I suppose the answer is Twelfth Night is my favorite at this moment.
Okay, that's good. Molly Daniels says she needs book 2. Do you have any plans to come back to Indianapolis for a Comic-Con in May?
Actually, I was in Indianapolis just last year doing a book festival for my second book, A Sea of Troubles. So I was just there. I don't believe I'm coming back to Indianapolis this year, but I will mention, since obviously Molly comes from Indianapolis, that I proposed to my wife in Indianapolis, and I have very fond memories of Indianapolis. I was working at Indiana Rep, which is right there in downtown Indianapolis.
Oh, very nice. So now that you are an author, what is your process like when you decide you're going to write a book? How do you attack it?
Well, what usually happens is I have an idea and I know how it starts and I know how it ends, and the process is how to figure out to go from the beginning to the end. I don't outline things. I don't give myself suggestions about what each chapter is going to be about. I just start to write, and it takes me in all sorts of directions, and then eventually I have enough words to publish.
That's wonderful. And so what is it, I guess, in Shakespeare? What is your big draw to the whole Elizabethan era in all Shakespeare? And
Okay, that's an excellent question. Excellent question. Why am I drawn to Shakespeare? It started in high school when I got to do Claudius and Hamlet, very young Claudius, and I was gobsmacked by the language and what was being said, and I'm still gobsmacked. I'm still in awe of how Shakespeare writes and some of the incredible insights he has into humanity. I suppose that's why certain TV shows are more dear to me than others, because they deal with the insights into humanity. But writing is my way of putting ideas together in a well-formed way. The putting together of a perfect sentence is my idea of heaven, and I aspire to that. And if I keep at it long enough, I hope to create some lines that are of the same merit as Shakespeare or any of the great writers.
good. I like
It's
that.
a bar too high. I never aspire to reach the bar, but it is great fun trying to reach that bar.
Sure.
If I can attain it, lovely, terrific. But it's just the process of trying to get there that intrigues me. And Shakespeare, because I perform so much in Shakespeare, because I've taught Shakespeare, there isn't a day that goes by that I don't have something to do with Shakespeare. As I said earlier today, I was teaching a class which I just got off of, and he just intrigues me. And it's not just Shakespeare; it's the entire period. It's a fascinating period of human history, and I eagerly eat up anything new that I can find.
Great. So you did stage, and what got you into working and becoming an actor?
I was, again, in high school. This was before Hamlet. I did a play before Hamlet, and there was a moment on stage where I lost myself, where I knew I was playing a character, and there was about 10 or 15 minutes when I came off stage, and I couldn't remember being on stage. It wasn't amnesia or anything like that. I was so involved in the needs and intentions of that character. His name was John Proctor. That it was like a drug. I was like, how do I do that? How do I lose myself in something else? And that became somewhat of an addiction, that I wanted to recreate that phenomena. It doesn't always happen. It rarely happens. But again, striving for that is what kept me going as an actor. And then I must say, I was enormously, enormously lucky. As a young man, and even as an older man, I was constantly being given work, either that I auditioned for or because people were aware of my past work. And so it was just being offered to me, and my profession is a very difficult one, difficult for people to achieve any success in, to make a living in, and I just lucked out. When I look back, I don't know how I got here. I only know that the gods and fortune was smiling, and they led me here.
That's nice.
I mean,
Here.
I mean, there are so many events that if I had turned left instead of right, or if I turned right instead of left, major things would not have happened. For instance, I'm looking at the Deep Space Nine poster behind you, and thinking of Star Trek, and most people think of me with Star Trek. That would not have happened. It should not have happened. I was working on a show called Beauty and the Beast. In the panel right before me, they mentioned Ron Perlman. I was doing a show with Ron Perlman called Beauty and the Beast. And I had auditioned for a Star Trek episode and got it. And then there was a conflict. Beauty and the Beast, which was my bread and butter, needed me on the same day that Star Trek needed me. But I was a Star Trek fan. And my agent insisted that I do Beauty and the Beast because that was my bread and butter. But I was a Star Trek fan and said, no, I want to do the Star Trek. And we had a huge argument. And because I'm the client, I won the argument, and I did the minor episode of Star Trek, which of course led to everything that's behind you. And it shouldn't have happened. I should have taken he really was good advice. I should have taken my agent's advice and done the Beauty and the Beast. I continued on Beauty and the Beast and later became a series regular on Star Trek. But there are a lot of things like that. That's just fortune. That's just luck. That's just, it wasn't decided. I didn't decide. It just happened that way. And I was in the right place at the right time over and over and over again.
We have a question from Phoenix Sisters Cosplay. So if you could invite any 5 of your characters from your books to a dinner party, which 5 would you invite?
Well, I would certainly start with John D., who I've spent a lifetime studying. So
certainly.
We'll start with John D. Because my present books and my whole life has been studying Shakespeare, I would like Shakespeare to come as well. I'm rather happy with my creation of Orsino in my book, so I'd like for him to come as well. His wife, Diane, I would like for her to come. And just for to keep the party lively, I would like Sir Toby Belch to come as well.
Nice. What is Hollis Thompson asks, what is an Elizabethan play written by someone other than Shakespeare that you would be excited to perform in?
I would like to do Dr. Faustus, which is a Marlovian play. That would be great fun. There were a lot of great playwrights in Elizabethan times that are overshadowed by Shakespeare. There was Peele and Marlowe and Greene and dozens of others. But I think Faustus would be the play that I would like to do. I may be a little old now for Faustus, but I could play the devil, so that would be okay.
We have a question from Katie Malarkey. She says, one of my favorite roles of yours was as Pascal in Beauty and the Beast. Do you have any stories to share from your time on that wonderful show?
Well, besides the one I just told you now, I do have a charming one that I remember fondly. I had done a number of episodes on Beauty and the Beast, and thank you, Katie, for your kind words about Pascal. That was my apprenticeship, by the way. I learned to work on TV by doing Beauty and the Beast. But I remember the first season that I was on was over, and there was a wrap party, and I was talking to a number of the actors, and this guy came over and put his arm around me and started talking to me like I was his best friend, and I hadn't the faintest idea who it was. And we chatted for about 5 minutes, and he walked away. And I turned to my wife and I said, I don't know who that was. Who was that? Do you know who that was? And she said, that's Ron Perlman. That's your star. I had never seen Ron out of makeup. And so I didn't know what he looked like in real life. So that kind of wonderful. Also, the man who played father on that show was a man named Roy Dotrice, who was slightly responsible for the creation of Pascal, and working with Roy again, because I had worked with him in Henry V in Stratford. That was quite lovely. But it was a great show. And for those of you who are not familiar with Beauty and the Beast, and perhaps even Katie doesn't know this, but the man who was the showrunner, the man who was the man who came up with the stories and wrote a number of the stories, was a man named George R.R. Martin, who we all know now from Game of
Oh,
Thrones.
wow. I did not know that.
So those are some of my stories from Beauty and the Beast.
So yesterday I went. Oh, sticky. Okay, we have another question from Kristen.
Memory James Avery. Yeah.
Yes, James Avery.
James and I were attached at the hip. His character and mine were constantly bickering, and we had sort of a bromance on the show. And I remember James fondly. He's passed away now. He always called me Dad and called my wife Mom. And James, of course, is a 6'2", I believe, black man. So we would stop traffic when he would yell out Mom and Dad. But I loved working with James. He was phenomenal and very kind. He had done a lot more TV than I had. And as I said, working on Beauty and the Beast was my transition from the theater to TV, and I learned to do less on Beauty and the Beast. And a lot of it was from watching Perlman, but a lot of it also was working with James. And our bickering and our love fest is still very dear to me, and I miss him a lot.
Regarding Star Trek, yesterday I went and rewatched the very first Ferengi episode on The Next Generation. And it was very interesting to see the progression of the Ferengi from the very first to the very end. And one of my thoughts was, when you first showed up as a Ferengi in Star Trek, how long did it take to get the makeup on versus your very last scene on Deep Space Nine as Quark? Had they perfected it so that it was a lot less time, or?
Although they're both Ferengi makeups, they're both radically different makeups. So the Ferengi makeup for that episode, which was called The Last Outpost, had 7 pieces. And Quark's makeup had 2 pieces. So that made a big difference in the gluing. The original time, I think, for that Ferengi makeup, the character's name was Letek, took about 4 hours. When we sat down the first day of Deep Space Nine to put the makeup on, it took about 3 hours. About a month after that, of the 7 years that Karen and I worked together, Karen was my makeup artist, Karen Westerfield. She got it down to 2 hours, and it never got below 2 hours. It was pretty much always 2 hours. So there's that. I do want to say up front that I hate my performance in that episode that you watched. And my whole agenda as Quark, well, not the whole agenda, but I would say a great deal of my agenda, was to eradicate that performance in that episode, Last Outpost, that you saw. What I did was god-awful, horrible, silly, and unprofessional. And I didn't mean it to be those things, but in hindsight, I am quite aware of it. And Quark was my attempt to take a one-dimensional character that I had created in that episode and transform him into a 3-dimensional character on Deep Space Nine.
And I really think that you did that. And Deep Space Nine, I think, had a great ensemble cast that you were placed with. So I think, working together was great. And I enjoyed seeing Quark's story evolve. I enjoyed seeing the how you played off with the other characters and the other Ferengi. And I did hear something about how whenever there was a Ferengi heavy episode, you would bring all of the Ferengi cast over to your place to. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Sure. One of the things that was very obvious to me and all the other characters who recurred as Ferengi was that once we put the head on, we went deaf. those big ears were like, big earplugs,
Hmm.
and it was very difficult to hear, which makes it difficult to act if you can't hear what the other actor is saying. You certainly can see what the faces are doing, but you can't necessarily always hear them. So early on, and it wasn't just for the Ferengi, Renee who played Odo, and I would get together often in the beginning as well. So what I did was I invited all the characters, the actors, to come to my house for the weekend, and we would rehearse the scenes. Now, this never happens in television. First of all, professional actors don't do things for free; they want to get paid for it, and I wasn't paying them anything except giving them food for lunch. But they knew that they needed to have this extra rehearsal in order to give the very best performances that we could all possibly give. And we did that for 7 years. We would indeed on Ferengi heavy episodes get together, work out what we were going to do, discuss how the director might want to approach it, work the lines. Because one of the other things about wearing the head was because we were encased in all that rubber, our heads got warm, and I could only equate it to what people feel like when they have a head cold, and your head gets sort of head and you get a little dreamy, and
Sure.
things begin to wash in front of you. And we knew that after about the 8th hour, usually our days were about 12 hours, so usually about the 8th hour, we were working on fumes. And so we needed this rehearsal to allow us to put some sort of muscle memory and mental memory into our performances in the scenes that were coming in after the 8th hour. That was essential, or we would have given less than perfect performances. I did not want to fall into the same trap that I had fallen into in Last Outpost. And they kindly, more than kindly, heroically, came to my house and did it month after month after month, and I'm very grateful to their professionalism.
It seems like it would be very helpful, especially with not being able to hear.
Yeah, it was very helpful, and if we succeeded beyond the pale, it's because we took the time and wanted to put in extra time to make it as good as possible. Understand, the Ferengi are not the Vulcans. There's an instinctive respect for Vulcans and like species. Ferengi are at the bottom of the hierarchical ladder, and in order to gain some modicum of understanding, of respect, of interest, we knew we had to work harder because of the roles that we were given. I mean, a lot of people hated the Ferengi on Next Generation, and rightfully so. And we knew we had to work hard to be considered a peer to the other species.
You mentioned Odo, and I will say I liked the dynamic that when the series started out, you and Odo were very much at odds, and you were always the lowest of the low, and he was, Mr. I'm in charge. And by the end of the series, well, you didn't hug, but you seem to have a much more mutual understanding. And can you tell me, like, maybe what was it like working with Rene Auberjonois?
Very good. Excellent pronunciation of his last name.
Thank you.
A lot of people get it wrong. What was it like working with Rene Auberjonois? Divine. He's a crown prince in the American theater. He's done performances that are still talked about, legendary. I was it was always an honor for me to work with Rene. That said, I did a play with Rene before we did Deep Space Nine,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't much care for him in that play. I did as a person, not as a character. He did a great job
Oh,
on
okay.
stage. I just didn't like him as a person, mainly because we had nothing to say to each other. We there was no reason for us to talk because we had no scenes together and all kinds of things. So I felt he was a less than congenial person at the time. And when I got the script and knew that Renee was going to play Odo, I thought, oh, this is easy. Quark doesn't like Odo, and my God, that shouldn't be hard to play. Then, again, luck, fortune. The makeup department decided to sit Renee right next to me in the makeup trailer.
Oh.
And because we had to sit there for long hours while we were being made up, our friendship grew, blossomed, grew some more, turned into a loving relationship, not a sexual loving one, but a great friendship. And we became extraordinarily good friends. And the writers, being no fools, saw that relationship in dailies. They didn't necessarily choose a particularly loving instance for the final cut, but they saw several times where perhaps we were a little more kindly to each other than the script indicated. And so they just began to draw upon that and to write the bromance that became our relationship. And they always kept it antithetical, but they always allowed us to bring our friendship somewhat onto screen. And it's something that a lot of Star Trek fans, especially of our show, talk about. And I know both of us, Renee has now passed on as well, but I know both of us esteemed a great deal.
Dave Mattingly asks, who was Quark's best friend on DS9?
Rom.
Rom is his brother, and yes, and
again, it's a love-hate relationship. But,
yes, well, certainly.
But Rom, if Quark ever had a problem, he went to Rom. He didn't go to Odo. He might, but not often. He certainly didn't go to anybody else, but he would go to Rom. And he may not always get what he wanted from Rom as far as understanding, but yeah, I would say Rom was his best friend.
And I'd like to say that seeing you appear on Lower Decks was great fun. And I had seen someone had asked you about wearing the teeth for the show because you said, yes, you had to wear the teeth to get the voice. So did you have a pair of teeth left over from way back, or did they have to remake a pair of teeth for you? Or
neither. One of the mysteries to me was after 7 years of working as Quark, in the last 2 months before the show finished shooting, somebody stole the teeth from my trailer.
Oh.
And they had to make a new set of teeth. And I kept those teeth, those replacement teeth, which were very close to the originals. But one of the things that's about human anatomy is teeth move in your mouth. And for the years that my prosthetic teeth lived in their container, they lived there while my teeth began to move.
Okay.
And years later, when I needed them for something, they didn't fit. They didn't fit over my present teeth or the teeth at that time. And I realized I had a project coming up. It was a voiceover project where I needed to wear them, and I knew it wouldn't sound like Quark without the teeth, and I knew the teeth that I had just were inoperable. So I have a niece, Natasha, who was going to makeup school at the time, and I asked her to create another set of teeth for me for that project that was coming up in the future. And she did, but she was a student and not a professional, and they fit. That's the good point. But they didn't have the same makeup as the teeth that I used on Deep Space Nine.
Mm.
So when I was asked to do Lower Decks, I knew again I had to have teeth. I didn't want to go through the process of making a new set of teeth, so I used Natasha's teeth. Now they don't make me sound like Quark as much as I'd like them to. Not Natasha's fault. It's just the way
Sure.
things work out. So yes, I did wear Natasha's teeth for Lower Decks, but when I watch the episode, I go, doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound right.
Regarding coworkers on Star Trek, one of the things that I have recently been doing is listening to a podcast from the Shuttle Pod show, and Connor Trenier and Dominic Keating from Enterprise do this podcast. And one of the things they talk about is, having done lots of television, you always say when you're 16 hours with your current cast, when the show's over, you're going to stay friends. We're going to, I'm going to still talk to you. We'll get in touch. And it doesn't happen a lot, but they said with Star Trek, you stay close. There's a bond with the Star Trek family because you see them at cons, you see them all over the world on the Star Trek cruises. And I wonder if you could talk a little bit about that.
It's absolutely true. Conventions and cruises and interviews, because Star Trek is meaningful to a lot of people, we have lots of opportunities to get together, and we do get together, and it does keep us as friends. Some are more friendly than others. Some shows were very friendly. On my show, we have a lot of actors who live in different parts of the world, so the only time we see them is at conventions. And some of our actors don't really do conventions, so I don't see them as often. But a lot of the other casts do see each other, and most of those other casts from the other shows, they all live in Los Angeles, so they see each other in town, and they do get together. But yes, we are a family, and some of our family we get to see more than others. And but we do stay a family because of those things that Dominic said. But in the only difference, because it's in my mind, and I do want to say it.
Sure.
It is that all the people that I work with are very, very, very close friends of mine. But Renee was special. Renee, before Renee passed away, we did a lot of things. It wasn't conventions, and it wasn't just cruises.
Sure.
We actually vacationed together. We took trips together. We saw each other on a regular basis. We were at each other's house for dinner many, many times. That was an extra special relationship. As much as I love the other people on the show, Renee was my Armin's best friend on the show.
That's wonderful. Can you tell us a little bit about what it was like working with Wallace Shawn, the Grand Nagus?
Yeah, Wally was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I have a story to tell against myself about Wally. I loved Wally. He was always brilliant and fun to be around. And his line readings were exquisitely funny. Just it was hard for me not to laugh in the middle of a camera shoot because he was just so incredibly funny and wonderful. However, that said, and here's the story against myself. And I apologize to Wally if he's listening, because I've never told him this. So all my life, I've been an actor in various forums, and I have heard of stories and experienced a couple where the leading actor, for some reason, takes a dislike to a supporting actor and has them fired, has them relegated to the back of the bus, or have their scenes cut to nothing, to shreds. And I've never understood that behavior. I always thought, we're doing this together. We're an ensemble. Each part of the ensemble is important. Each part of the ensemble must be respected. So I never understood this egomaniacal desire to get rid of someone because, for whatever reason. Usually, it's because the supporting member is just too good. It's just too good, and is, in a sense, upstaging, if we can call it that, of the leading actor who's supposed to be the shining light of a production. Okay. So Wally had been on the set several times, and I remember one day everything he did was hysterical. He had the crew and the cast in bent over backwards, bent over forwards, in laughter, and not only is he funny, he's wise. He's enormously wise and knowledgeable and well read, and one is and is Wally. People may not be aware of. Wally is one of America's greatest playwrights. He has written some enormously important plays. Everything he did that day was perfect. And for about 5 minutes, that green-eyed demon, envy, inhabited my head and my rubber head as well. And I was enormously jealous of him. and something rose up in me and said, where does he get off having all this attention? I'm the leading actor. Where does he get off? And that lasted for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then after that, my good angel whispered in my ear, "What are you doing?" And I went, "Oh my God, this is how this happens. This is how that behavior that I never understood happens." And I stopped it immediately. So that's how good Wally is.
Huh. One of the things that I've heard in the Shuttlepod show is a lot of Star Trek actors come from Shakespeare backgrounds or have a lot of Shakespeare experience. And I understand that on some of the cruises, they'll have like a Shakespeare show where some of them will get up and read soliloquies. And what do you think it is about Shakespeare that draws these actors for Star Trek?
Well, it isn't that the actors are drawn, it's that they're chosen. And the reason why they're chosen is that they have an expertise with language. That's what classical theater gives an actor, is an expertise with language. So how to use difficult language and make it sound believable. That's what you have to do as a Shakespearean actor. That's what you have to do as a Star Trek actor. We don't speak in iambic pentameter in science fiction, but we do speak in what's called technobabble. We have a lot of words that don't make sense or aren't real, and we have to make them sound like they're real. Thankfully, my character rarely had to ever do that. But because of that facility with language that we get from classical theater, that gives us a little bit of a leg up when we're at the audition process. We make that strange world come to life, and that's the other part. It's not just the language. In Shakespeare, you're dealing with cosmic issues. We're not dealing with kitchen sink issues. And certainly that's what happens in Star Trek as well. You're dealing with cosmic issues. Some actors have no facility to act in those cosmic situations. They are brilliant kitchen sink actors. Every little nuanced thing is clearly seen in their eyes and in their face and in the way they say things. But they have a problem with huge cosmic issues, where Shakespeare makes us familiar easy with those issues, and that's what you have to have when you're approaching a Star Trek role.
One of the questions we had in here was from Molly Daniels. She wanted to know, was each episode filmed sequentially or in parts?
Always in parts. There is I've never heard of a TV show ever shot sequentially. Perhaps once in a blue moon, a film might be done that way, but because of the economics of TV or film, for that matter, it must be shot sequentially. There's no reason to keep a set or an actor available for an entire week if you're only going to use the actor in 2 scenes. Then it's best to shoot him out in 1 day. Shoot him, do the 2 scenes in 1 day and shoot him out. Now he may appear or she may appear at the beginning and in the end. So shoot the beginning and the end and get him out. Same thing for a set. Get the set out of the way because we don't We don't need it more than twice or three times, and then get rid of it or move it out. So almost invariably, things are shot in sequence. And what a TV actor or a film actor has to learn, as opposed to a theater actor who does work sequentially, is what is the arc? How do I change in this episode from the beginning to the end? What are the demarcations of what my journey is? And that you have to learn as you're investigating the script when you first get it. How do I change? And then try to remember that, so that if you're shooting the middle of the scene on the very first day, what got you there and how far do you have to go?
Sure. I know when you were doing Deep Space Nine in Quark, you were also at the same time doing Principal Snyder on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And can you say what it was like to be Quark on one day and Principal on the next?
Long days, very long days. And again, luck. My contract said I could not do any other program but Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
My producers allowed me to do it, and not just Buffy. I did a dozen or more shows at the same time, and yet my contract said I was not allowed to do that. I suggested this to some of my friends on Voyager who attempted to do the same thing, to go on to other shows while they were doing Voyager. And they had a different showrunner than I had. And they were forbidden because the contract said they couldn't do it. Again, luck. But what was it like? Okay. It was a great advantage to do both shows. Despite the long hours, and there were long hours, there were at least 2 days where I worked around the clock, where I came to work for Star Trek at 5 and finished Buffy at 5 in the morning. Why was it an advantage? I don't know how to explain this to people who aren't actors, or even to actors who have never experienced this. It was like doing repertory theater. One day you're playing Hamlet, and on another day you're playing Malvolio. They're two different characters and two different sizes of roles. And what happens is you don't get bored with the role that you're doing because there's another role to play. There's another role that takes your mind off of the role that you're initially committed to. And it allows you to regenerate and rejuvenate your juices so that you go back and you want to have as much joy with the first role as you did when you first started doing it. I must tell you, after 7 years of Star Trek, all of us were a little tired of our characters. We were happy and very good at performing them, but we were a little tired of performing them. My being able to do Snyder on Buffy and the other roles that I was able to do rejuvenated me so that I was probably less tired than anybody else at the set.
Kristen Marie asks, okay, so you were on an episode of Hooperman with John Ritter.
That's right.
And I also know that you were in a TV movie that he was in called Tricks of the Trade.
Tricks of the Trade.
Did you work?
I worked with John on Hooperman. No, I worked with John on Hooperman, and I remember him to being a very gracious, giving person. Makes a difference what happens off camera as well as on camera. And one of the things I learned from people like John is that you must be open, kind, convivial, a human being with your guest stars. And that's one of the things that John showed me. He was that way with me. Couldn't have been nicer, and I enjoyed the experience tremendously. Now, it's a long time ago, and I don't have any specifics, but I do remember he was a joy to work with, and I'm sorry that I didn't get to work with him more.
Dave Mattingly says, I've noticed that two role benefit Quark and Principal by being involved in rocket science, preaching, and improv comedy and radio all at once. The energies build on each other.
That's right. The energies build on each other. It's a good way to put it. Thank you.
Yeah. So one question that I have is, you've done cons, you've done lots of Q&As. Has there ever been something that in the back of your mind you wished someone would ask that no one's ever asked about that you want people to know?
Sure. It's a good question. And since I'm interested in my books, I'm going to say I wished you had asked me more about my not my Merchant Prince books, but my Illyria books. So I am going to take the advantage of that right now.
Okay.
I am a novelist, and I do more writing recently than I have done acting. So I'm flattered that people are interested in my acting career, and I'm glad to talk about it. But I am a novelist, and I'm very proud of the books that you have pictured there right next to your ear. And my books are wonderful time machines to go back in history. And if you're interested in history at all, if you're interested in a fascinating era, which the Elizabethan era was, I hope that people will go either to my website, www.arminshimerman.com, and purchase the books there, or they can, and my website will direct you to www.jumpmasterpress.com, which is where my publisher is, and you can buy the books there. A lot of people have been kind enough to say that they're fascinating novels. They learned a lot about history. They learned a lot about characters. That they're about history, but they're also comic. They do have to deal with the comic characters of Twelfth Night, and I know a lot of people said that they learned a lot and they laughed a lot. So that's a question that I wish was asked more.
Okay, well, I'm very interested in receiving these books. I can't wait because I really want to read them.
And if I may point out, thank you, Steve. If I may point out, two of them, the first two are already out. They've been out for a long time. It's only in Balance of Power. The third book, what's today? Today's the 21st, which comes out in 3 days. And if you order it on the 24th, you should be able to get it on the 26th.
Now, do you go out and do book signings?
I have, yes, and that's what happened in Indianapolis last year. I go out and do book signings that my publisher arranges, and it's great fun because I mean, usually people come to me because they know of me as an actor, and then when they start reading some of the books, they come back to me and say, "I really like this. This is really good." You know, we're all of us are capable of doing many things, and all we have to do is find out what those things are that we like to do, and do them. And writing is that for me. As I said, it was my original ambition, and I have much more to say now that I have white hair than I did when I was a young man.
That's good. So, do you think in future novels you'll stay with the Elizabethan?
If I write any more, and my publisher is begging me to do that, I think I will stay with the Elizabethan, Steve, because the adage is you should write what you know, and I have studied Shakespeare in Elizabethan times since I was 19. So, and I'm well past 19 now. It's what I know best. So yes.
All right, and sorry to stop this, but we are at time. Armin, you've been such a wonderful guest. I've really been enjoying this, and I'm going to have to check out your books because they sound amazing. Sorry, I'm getting ring light glare. So again, repeat your website for anyone who
Sure.
may have missed it.
It's relatively simple. Just have to spell Shimerman right. It's www.arminshimerman, as it is written there on the screen, .com. Go to is it books or shop? You go to shop, which is there, and it will give you the option to buy 1 book, 2 books, 3 books. The triplet, the box set, as is pictured there next to Steve, is available, as I said, come the 24th. But you can buy them individually, or you can buy them as a box set, and I hope people will enjoy them. I know many people already have, and I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, they sound amazing. I love John Dee, so I'm so fascinated by him.
I am too. I've spent a life studying him. Yeah.
So thank you so much for being here, Steve. Thank you so much for hosting
thank
this.
you. Yes, and thank you, Armin.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you for the lovely questions.
Oh, you're welcome.
And so I'm just going to play our video begging people to give their money to our worthwhile cause. And then I'm going to get into the next panel. So again, thank you, Armin. This was so wonderful. We all love you very much.
Well, thank you.
Yes.
You're very kind. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh, you're
and
welcome.
good luck with the charity, because I know you do good things, and as I say again, John was a terrific human being.
He really, it sounds like he was both off screen and obviously he touched all of us on screen. So thank you.
Bye now.
Bye. Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting. All right, welcome back. I hope you all are enjoying today's show. We've had some great panels. This is the last panel of the day. I'm going to see if this will work so I can switch us into Cosplay Cafe mode. This is Cosplay Cafe. I'm Kelly Guentner, one of your two baristas. Welcome, Crayle.
Hello.
I am so glad that you're on screen. How are you feeling?
I'm okay. Do we want to explain what happened?
Let's do our intro and then we'll explain. So keep watching, y'all, if you want to hear about Crayle's mishap. So first of all, we're going to be talking about charity and cosplay. I am going to roll our credits and then we'll go from there. Cosplay Cafe is sponsored by... Not that one. It's been a long day. It's been a long day. Oh my gosh. Opening credits. All right, so we're going to be serving up a hot steaming cup of cosplay. Again, long day, I can't talk. I do not have a hot cup. I have a cold cup. And
Same.
you can get...
Hydrating is super important whenever you're on screen a bunch in like a 1, 2, 3 day period.
Yes, yes. Okay, so tell the audience what happened to you and then we'll bring on our guests.
Yeah, so I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it after all at the very last minute, because I think I partially dislocated my shoulder getting into my costume. And what happened is funny. So I mean, we'll show more of it later, but this is a mostly, it's an entirely
good
one-piece dark Supergirl costume that I've only tried on once. And this is one of those series of unfortunate events things where this thing caused this thing caused this thing. So I don't have curtains in my cosplay room right now. And so to make sure if I had to like step out from behind the partition so that I wouldn't be visible through the window, I left the light off. And this is an all black suit except for the silver right here and the belt.
Nope.
So I didn't remember and then didn't notice and couldn't see because the black all blended in together that there are Spanx sewn into this, and I put it on over my head, and I remembered it being tight. It's only 2-way stretch, not 4-way stretch, which is if you're part of the spandex family, you know there's a huge difference between 2-way stretch and 4-way stretch.
Yeah.
So the darkness, the colors of the fabric, and the stretch of the fabric were all working against me as I got somehow the whole upper half of my body through one leg hole of the Spanx. The whole thing was crooked and too tight. And I was like, I just tried this on not that long ago. What is happening? Why does it feel like it's cutting off circulation right above my hips? And why is it crooked? And so I lift like parts of it up and everything. And yeah, no, I have my entire waist, like just below my rib cage, through one side of the hole in the Spanx. So already I'm in a little bit of pain because that's like, it was cutting into me pretty badly. Well, I couldn't just like do like you do with a normal shirt or dress and like cross your arms over and then pull it up because it was so tight. So I was like, once my arms got here, they were locked. And I pulled this shoulder partially out. I heard a weird pop and then had part of the thing off. So I couldn't move my left arm. So I'm sitting here going, okay, this hurts and I'm stuck. I'm about to cry. Like I'm supposed to be on a panel in 15 minutes and I'm stuck halfway in, halfway out of a Supergirl costume in pain. So finally I pushed my shoulder into the wall of my closet.
Oh my goodness.
It was like movable again. And then had to just keep like wiggling a little bit to one side and one side and one side. It took me a full 3 minutes, which if you think about how it normally only takes a couple seconds to pull off a shirt or a dress, like 2 or 3 minutes is a really long time to be wiggling out of something. So then I'm like, okay, I'm in time, but I need a second to like go get some Tylenol and some water and calm down because I just almost had a panic attack. Stuck.
I'm sorry. So Carl Witzman says, ouch. Hollis Thompson says, so sorry. And Carl Witzman says, okay, it's only funny now, but still.
John Ritter, king of physical comedy, smiling down on us from heaven, I guess.
Yes. And on that note, let's bring in our guests. So we have Jen W. and Jim K. They're from the League of Enchantment. They're from the Midwest branch, which operates out of Chicago. They are just absolutely wonderful. We've had Jen on the show before, and so you all know her and love her. And I'm super excited to meet Jim because I haven't met him before. So welcome, Jen and Jim.
Hello.
You two look so great.
Thank you.
I was considering wearing Natasha, so I'm glad I went with this. And Crayle and I just accidentally matched because, you know, Phoenix sister.
Right. We did not plan this.
And Keisha Acuff of Acuff Creation says, you guys look so super, talking to Crayle and me. I love it. And you two look marvelous.
Thank you. What do you do?
Hi, thank you. So how are you two doing tonight?
We're doing pretty good.
Yeah, doing well.
Yeah.
Good. I'm
Yeah,
so glad
excited
you
to be here. Thanks for having us on.
Thanks. I'm so glad you decided to join us. It's just perfect to talk about charity during a weekend when we're doing charity. So it's absolutely excellent. So why don't we start out by both of you introducing yourselves and talk about how you got involved in the League of Enchantment.
Okay. So I'm Jen. I am the membership captain for the League of Enchantment Chicago. There was and still is, a branch in Michigan that was the parent company of us. And about a year ago now, we started our Chicago branch. During the pandemic and during lockdowns, some of us wanted to continue doing some charity work. And we found ways to do that ourselves with some of our friends, and some of our members met up with the Michigan group and started working with them, and they encouraged us to then also start our own group in Chicago as part of that. So we got that all together, and here we are. We've got about 40 members now, I think. So we've been really growing over the past year, and it's been really exciting.
That is very exciting. I just joined. I still have to do an event with you all, but It'll happen.
Looking forward to you coming out to do something.
Can't wait.
What about you, Jim?
My name is Jim, and I started with League of Enchantment right when it started here in Chicago. I am really new to all of this, so I met a couple of people and then jumped right in. And it's been a wild ride ever since. I'm actually the assistant to the captain, so whatever he can't do, he passes on to me. They also make fun of me and call me the captain cape holder too, just in case you need your cape held in a picture. I'll do that for you too. So I've got multiple powers.
He's great at it.
I try.
Hero support.
Yes, exactly.
I mean, okay, cape holding is super important for photo shoots, so you're the real hero.
Yeah.
Not all heroes wear capes, some hold them.
Ruby Elliott says that once again, Crayle is Kelly's evil counterpoint. So for those of you who don't know, the reason we're called Phoenix Sisters is because Kelly cosplays in the standard green. I mean, there's nothing standard about it, but in the green, like default Phoenix suit. And I frequently cosplay in the dark Phoenix suit, and our migraines linked up, which was a sign that Phoenix was first starting to lose control to the Phoenix Force, was really bad migraines. So that's the short version. And Carlin says, no capes. That's Carlin Stewart.
Yeah, I'm going to have to disagree with Edna Mode on that one.
This is glorious.
It's beautiful.
I love it.
I love capes. I know I don't have one with this, but I could have a cape. This is a corset that our other co-host, Andrea, who is not with us today because she's doing a con, but she made this for last year's fundraiser because basically she makes corsets, and so she was offering a custom corset as a prize. So she made me one as a sample. I'm like, I will take it. So I got to wear it on air last year, and I'm like, this is a good excuse to break it out again.
Ruby Elliott says, all the capes. Ruby Elliott is excellent at making capes. If you don't follow t-shirt cosplay, you should. She's always like, well, I don't post there as much as I should. But the stuff she does post, like, she makes stuff out of t-shirt material. And she's always like, it just seems easy to me. And other seamstress people are like, no, jersey knit is terrible. How do you do this? Are you a magician? So,
yes, she is. Yes. So, Jim, I'll let you go first. But since we've heard Jen's origin story, the Jen I am going to ask you to repeat it. How did you get into cosplay in general?
Oh, this is a story. So, my cousin, she asked me to come to her grandson's grandson's birthday party. And so I went. So I got invited and everything like that. When I walked in the door, she hands me this like shopping bag from a grocery store, and she's like, here, I need you to put this on. And I was completely like, what do you mean I have to put? So I open up the bag, and inside of it is a Spider-Man suit. She's like, I told my grandson that Spider-Man was coming today, and I knew if I told you were going to dress as Spider-Man, you wouldn't come to the birthday party. So now I'm at the party. It's like almost a 3-hour drive from my house. I put the suit on, and I ended up becoming Spider-Man. And the entire time at this kid's birthday party, he did not want me there. He wanted Hulk. He kept asking, Hulk, where's Hulk? So my cousin ended up giving me the Spider-Man suit, and that was my first cosplay I ever did, was Spider-Man at some of the events that I did. And then from there, I got addicted. So now it's like I've got quite a few different costumes, and it all started with Spider-Man at a birthday party for
being forced into.
I was literally held against my will.
That is a terrible and amazing story.
I wonder if that's how they got Patrick Stump to do the Spidey and His Amazing Friends theme song, is that they didn't tell him what he was actually there for and then held him against his will because he'd already driven into the studio.
Oh, no.
Wow. So got something in common.
Headcanon accepted.
my nephew and niece are super into that show. And I'm just like, this is This sounds like Fallout. This is Patrick
This is
Stone.
Fallout, yeah. Oh man, and the kids really love that show too. I also do Spider-Gwen and Ghost Spider, and she's been getting so much more attention at events. It's been wonderful. I've gone from, and who are you, Spider Woman, and to like all the kids go Go Spider. It's wonderful.
Aww.
It's fantastic.
It is adorable.
It's great. Yeah.
Carlin Stuart said suckered punch cosplay.
I love it. So, Jen, how did you get into cosplay?
I was in Halloween. I mean, I've been a kid since I've been wearing costumes since I was a kid. But gosh, what story? It's like, how does it begin, really, in terms of like what my first costume was? And it's kind of grown out of a Halloween habit, really. And then like, oh, people wear costumes to conventions. I'll wear costumes to conventions. And the first like event that I did was Phantom Menace. A friend of mine said, hey, we're going to go see Star Wars in costume. Let's go get our costumes made. So I got the Padme costume made from like the purple one, not anything super fancy, but like from the end of the movie. Mm-hmm. And we were the only people that showed up in costume. He was Qui-Gon, his other friend was Obi-Wan, and we went, and it was great. We got a lot of attention. That was really fun. So that should tell you how long I've been doing this. And then it just kind of grew from there. I took a break for a long time because, I mean, obviously I had other things going on, but like actually getting into the charity aspect of cosplay was probably 2018, late 2018, I think. I signed up with that with a charity group. I went to the library with my nephew and signed up with them and did Captain Marvel for charity cosplay. And she's really my primary character is Captain Marvel. But I also do Black Widow and Ghost Spider and Scarlet Witch, and I've got a couple princesses. I've got Rapunzel, and also now Two's coming along, thanks to a friend who made a wonderful dress.
Oh,
I'm really excited to add more to the repertoire and see who else, is coming along with that. So bring other characters to events. Because it's really fun. I mean, of course it's fun. We all know it's fun, but like when you're at the event and the kid sees you and you're their favorite, nothing matches that.
It's the best.
It is.
It's the absolute best. I got the chance speaking of Captain Marvel, I got the chance to befriend a mom whose kid was having a really hard time with not being in school, and Captain Marvel was this kid's favorite. So Crayle and I had offered up video chats. So I video chatted with this kid as Captain Marvel, and oh my gosh, the kid was also dressed as Captain Marvel, and she was just. I video chatted with her a couple times. She was just so cute. It was so special. And the first time she was like crying and she was telling me about how hard it was for her, how much she missed her friends. And I was able to help her have some bring some comfort to her. And and then she talked about the lessons she learned from Captain Marvel about being brave. And, you pick how, she fell on her bike and she picked herself back up because that's Captain Marvel does. And that's what these heroes mean to kids. Mm-hmm. It's, and stuff like that. I'm like, that is why I do it. That's what it makes it worth it. Makes it worth all the tears over and the hot glue burns and the tears over well, how am I going to build this? I don't know, but I'm going to figure it out because
it's so heartwarming when that happens. Because when I was Spider-Man at one point, we did one event and this little boy was so scared. And he was just terrified of being in this big room. He was terrified of all these people dressed up and strangers. It took me about 15 minutes to get him to warm up. And I remember his name and everything. And eventually he got so warm. He stayed with me. He held my hand and walked around. And I introduced him to all of my other superhero friends. And next thing you know, he's wanting to take pictures posing as Spider-Man. So I got a whole bunch of pictures with him.
I remember that event.
Yeah.
It was really fun. It's so great to see, because that was like the year after lockdown when things were just starting to come out again. So these kids who are so young, all they've ever really known in their recent memory is, stay away from strangers and don't talk to anybody. I mean,
That's hard.
And then to see familiar characters in person, it's like, no, Spider-Man belongs on my TV. Spider-Man does not belong right in front of me. What's going on here? And it's overwhelming. I mean, you did such a good job just getting on his level and like talking to him and seeing him and meeting him where he's at and then bringing him around. A lot of our members do that. We've got a lot of great people who really know what they're doing and how to connect with the kids, which is really what it's about.
Yeah, it's like a different kind of fun responsibility cosplaying around kids because there are so many stories. Like we were even told one not that long ago by someone, it didn't even happen to them at a convention. They were dressed as Superman for a different reason, where if a parent gets separated from their kids and you're in costume as a hero, they might come up to you and be like, help me find my parents, because they've been told go to an adult you trust.
Mhm.
You're supposed to be representing this character who helps people. So it's a responsibility, but it's fun and it's cool.
That did happen at a convention to me. Not a lost kid, but there was a woman there. I think she brought her niece, and she was fairly young, not like super young, but like, I don't know, maybe 7. And she was just really overwhelmed from being at C2E2, which is such a huge convention. It's a huge dealer's room. There's a lot going on. And she's like, can you just talk to my niece? She comes up to me as and I'm Captain Marvel. And she goes, she really loves Captain Marvel. Can you talk to her and just kind of let her know everything's going to be okay? And I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem. And this was like not even in the capacity of League of Enchantment. This was just me hanging out, like waiting for a friend. And I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. I don't know what it was about me as opposed to anyone else, but I'm happy to do that. So I talked with her and it was great. And she felt a little bit better. So that's what we like to do.
Love that.
I did.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's what it's all about, making the kids comfortable and happy and know that there's so much good out there.
I agree.
And we kind of do that with our hospital visits too. I mean, that's the main reason that we go to see them. That's one of the main things that we do as League of Enchantment is work with local hospitals and come see the kids. We do events maybe once or twice a month. We have a couple superheroes or princesses. We bring care packages to the kids.
We visited during Christmas. We went there on Christmas and visited the kids that were in the hospital and gave them some presents there. And it warms your heart when they're just sitting there and they know something's wrong, but they don't know what. And you just take a couple of minutes of that time away from them and stop thinking about all of that and just start thinking about like, oh my God, this like hero's here, and it takes their mind off of it and it feels so good.
I agree. So my very first event, I had a little girl come up to me who was autistic, and I just had reached out my hand to her and she held my hand. And next thing I know, this kid is just holding on to me. And I'm looking around like, oh, where's her parents? Her parent comes up to me and her parents are like, she doesn't hold people's hands. She doesn't interact with people. I almost started crying. Like, oh my gosh. It was amazing. That's still one of my favorite moments. I assume you two both have stories like that. Like what are some of your favorite memorable moments?
You go first.
Gosh.
I'll be here all day.
I think there was one, the one at the convention I said, there was actually an event I did as Black Widow where it was an outdoor event. There were a lot of kids around, and this girl, she was probably 5. And she just started telling me about her day. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to just listen to you and listen to what you got to say. And she's telling me about, she interacting with her sister and her parents, and like they're not necessarily, I'm like, maybe they're not necessarily listening to what she has to say. I don't know, but she wanted to talk to me. So I'm just gonna listen, and I'm kind of looking, where are your parents? Okay, your parents are over here. All right, I've got my eye on them to make sure that I know where you are. We had a similar story happen to one of our other members. She was dressed as Ariel. And this girl comes up to us at a library event, and the girl just kind of plops down and brings her a book and was like, kind of read me a story.
Yeah.
And I came across them and I was like, wait, where's the parents? Okay, we're just going to hang out here until this happens. But it was so, so sweet. And that was wonderful. That was Ari, one of our members. That was Ariel at the time. She was Wonderful.
I love that.
Reading the story.
There's a couple of them. One of them is one that we did at a convention at C2E2. We were reading stories. It was story time for the kids. And I was dressed as Captain America and she was Harley Quinn. And we read a story about Batman. And we also did one of Captain America. And so when we finished the story, this little kid who's dressed as Spider-Man comes up and kept telling us that the book I just read was his book. And I didn't understand what he meant at first. I'm like, oh, cool. So you have this book too. So then the mother, she explained that the little boy lost his book, was the exact same book we read on stage.
Oh,
and
no.
he's been looking for the book for months. And she said he's been so upset because they read it to him every single night. And without skipping a beat, Jen looks at me and she's like, we should sign this and give it to him.
Yeah, let's just
So
give it to him.
Captain America signed the book and gave it to the little boy. And
Because the books that we read for our story times, we get those from our same budget as we do for our care packages. So this was basically just an extension of the care package to make a really magical moment for a little kid that is probably going to remember that forever. So it was really, really cool to have Cap sign the book for him and, made it out to him and just made his whole day.
Right. Yeah. Another thing was a hospital visit I just recently did. This little boy spoke Spanish, and I don't speak Spanish. Shame on me. And we were told to stand at the doorway and not go in the rooms because there's still some restrictions. But all of a sudden, I look and I see this little boy. The door opens. He just like big eyes, mouth wide open, darts right towards me. And he just grabs me and he wouldn't let go. And I'm like thinking, okay, we weren't supposed to go in the room, but he's attached to me now. What do I do? And I just sat there and I hugged him and I wouldn't let go. You never let go until they let go. And then I sat there and he ran back into the room, got some of his toys, showed me some of his toys. And then he sat there and he was trying to read a brochure that was in one of the care packages to me. And he's showing like me the pictures and speaking to me. And the only thing I knew what to say was Feliz Navidad. But he just looked at me and gave me another big hug. It was such a magical moment. I didn't you don't expect those things to always happen, but when they do, you take them with grace and you love them. You put them special in your heart.
Love that. And since we are at the halfway point, I just want to remind everyone who's watching that you are watching Cosplay Cafe as part of the Multiverse FunRaiser, which is hosted by the Back of the Cereal Box. We are raising money for the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. So if you just go to our website listed below, www.themultiversefundraiser.com, and click on the donate here link, we are currently sitting at 35% of our goal. So that's $710 of $2,000. I want to get to at least 50% before we end the night. So we have 30 minutes to get there. Can you all get us there?
Come on, let's get there.
Let's get there. Also, if you donate or if you've already donated, you are eligible for our sweepstakes. Every $10 is an entry. We've got a lot of great prizes in there. Just make sure, even if you kept it anonymous, just send your receipt to phoenixescosplay@gmail.com. We've got a lot of people who have been really generous and kept their donations anonymous. But if you want to be eligible for those prizes, we can still keep you anonymous. We'll just add you to the drawing. So let's.
Kristen Marie comments. Hold on, my mouse. There we go. Comments that Lauren says Loki is her favorite.
Aww.
I love you. Thank you. It's actually kind of neat. You don't expect Loki to be like a popular one, but in recent months, like people are coming up to me and just talking to me, and Loki's becoming popular.
I think Loki's always been popular.
He has, but he doesn't want to get too involved with it.
Well, and this show really has elevated Loki.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Also, it's kind of strange having finally been in cosplay long enough for me to see some of the ebb and flow of popularity of characters now, because I'm coming up on my 10-year anniversary, right? And like no one knew who Liberty Bell from the Justice Society of America was when I started. Like nobody, like one person at a con would recognize me, and I would love how I made that one person's day. And now she's not the most mainstream character ever, but they made her a teacher in DC Superhero Girls. And now, so it's like older people who grew up with like Silver Age comics or even older than that sometimes. And little girls who are just like, oh my gosh, you're the teacher from DC Superhero Girls. And I'm like,
that's so wonderful.
So yeah, it's weird to me to have been in it long enough to even watch like an ebb and flow.
Yeah, I mean, I started my Captain Marvel cosplay. My first one was made in 2018 earlier, so it was about a year before the movie actually came out. And first con that I brought her to, a couple people knew who I was, but not a lot. And, you know, mostly just got called Wonder Woman. I mean, I still get called Wonder Woman as Captain Marvel. It's just something that happens to Captain Marvel cosplayers.
It's a color scheme.
You know, you take it in stride, especially if they're a little kid. You just go, yeah, okay, fine, I'm Wonder Woman. But, you know, it's definitely, she's getting a lot more recognition, which is fantastic. And seeing the kids in their costumes too has been just,
that makes me so happy when I see kids cosplaying as Captain Marvel. I don't know.
Yes.
Or Black Widow. Like, I'm like, yes. Little girls have more characters to look up to than.
And so many more coming out now, especially with the MCU. We've got, you know, Kate Bishop, we've got Spider-Gwen, we've got, I mean, the Wasp and Stature and Monica Rambeau and Kamala Khan, and you know, just the list goes on and on and on. And we'll just be getting so much more, and it's wonderful. It's really great.
I'm so here for it.
And it's so crazy to think like not that long ago, my friends Mark and Ruby would find like fabric or a bag or something that had all the Avengers on it, except Black Widow, who was the only girl for a long time. And be like, well, can't buy this now.
I remember that.
You left her off. Like,
and the Guardians of the Galaxy merch had the same problem with Gamora.
Yeah. Although it at least makes like a little more sense, like only after the first Guardians of the Galaxy, because Gamora goes from being like the bad guy to the good guy like partway through the movie. Whereas it was still happening with Black Widow on the Avengers, like really late into her being on the team, not just like somebody who was like a gotcha character. I was a spy all along in Iron Man. So
it's ridiculous.
I don't know. It still shouldn't have happened with the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff, but like,
and it's there's reasons for it. It's, you know, they're like, oh, boys don't buy stuff with girls on it. And I mean, my experience just as a you know, cosplaying women superheroes is that a lot of times it's the little boys that want to come up and say hi. And I mean, we had a shy kid that came up to the Avengers at one point. It was me and Cap and Thor, and the little boy just came right up to Black Widow, and I'm like, okay, this never happens. It happens once, but like it does happen. We had a little boy who was really excited to meet Spider-Gwen. They had left the event and came back and was like, go Spider, I have a big boy bed. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. The dad's like, we had to come back and tell Spider about our big boy bed.
That's so cute. Oh my gosh.
It's great.
Yeah, they drove like 15, 20 minutes and then had to turn right back around. It was an emergency, I guess.
Yeah, I had to say something.
Yeah.
I had I was at like a street fair, so not Metropolis Crayle, but a different one, a street fair con. And I was with a group of Avengers, and I was Black Widow, and I had a family with a 10-year-old kid follow us. And unfortunately, we went to a bar. So they pulled us into the bar because their little boy loved Black Widow. And I'm like, I felt so bad. I was like, no. I had no idea. But I felt bad because I'm like, oh, I'm sitting back and with a drink, and then they come in. Like, obviously it was right as we had sat down, so I wasn't like heavily drinking, but I'm like, everyone was kind of laughing. They're like, well, you know what, at least Natasha's Russian, like it's kind of
my thing about them not including girls, because they're like, oh well, boys and men won't buy blah blah. It's like, the thing about nerds is we like to complete the whole set. So
and
like,
if you don't give us the option,
why would you not give us the option to complete the set, to have the whole set?
Yeah.
Like, lift out one of the main characters. people are still going to buy the main characters. So anyway,
It's because they haven't accepted that adults buy that stuff.
True. I'm just going to put a comment on the screen because I'm getting
Ooh,
mad
this
about
is
it
a
now.
good question.
So David McDonald asks, is there a costume you've worn that you were surprised when someone recognized you?
That's a good question, David McDonald, whoever you are.
Whoever you are. That's my husband, in case you don't know.
Not necessarily for charity cosplay, because I tend to stick with the more recognizable characters for that, because you want to go to what the kids know. I do have Evane from Stardust that I wore to C2E2, and maybe 6 people knew who I was, but those 6 people were all very, very happy to see me and thought it was very cool. When I first started Scarlet Witch, it was before Age of Ultron actually came out. So this was a closet cosplay. I had seen the pictures, and the whole con, no one said anything, didn't even realize I was in a costume until the very end. You had all the Avengers kind of assembled by the letters at C2 and the end of the day on Sunday. And there was one cosplayer, a Hawkeye actually, who was like, you're an Avenger, come here. And of course, this was before the movie, which is weird because that happens in the movie, basically. So that was fun. And now you see everyone's cosplaying now.
I love that.
What about you?
I don't know, like, because I do Lucius Malfoy as well, and it's surprising. Some people will think that he's Severus Snape, and I'm like thinking, okay, so I got blonde hair, but Severus black, and a couple of times I'll get that, but I haven't really had anybody not so surprised, because I think I cosplay a lot of more recognizable ones than anything, but the Lucius one is probably the one that I've had people confused on, and I don't understand how, but it happens. Some people don't know the entire story, or they just get a name stuck in their head and it pops out.
Makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My most impossible, can't believe anybody recognized it costume was because it wasn't even a real costume. At Indiana Comic-Con one year, Kelly was there for this. Something happened the night before to where that day I was like, I can barely even go to the con, let alone be dressed up in something super hot. So I pulled through some stuff from my bag. I had borrowed and forgotten to return a headband from my friend Ruby that had a little pearl hanging from it right here and like 2 small chains hanging from it. And I was like, okay, well, I've got this like flowy, really light tan shirt. I'll wear that and my regular shorts and shoes and just tell myself, I pulled my hair back in a really tight ponytail and said, I'll just tell myself I'm the childlike empress from Neverending Story to make myself. Okay, see, you would have been someone else too. But this is a large convention too. So I walked past so many people and we were in one of the main aisles in between like the celebrities and the like dealers hall, just this throng of people, and somebody stops me like without touching me. They just put their hand out a little bit. They were like, are you Moonbeam, like the queen from Neverending Story right now? And I was like, how did you get that? I have a headband and a tan tunic. Like, yes, I am. It was amazing.
That's all it takes. And for everyone that does stop you or comments that you overhear, there's probably more people that do recognize it and just don't say anything. Or not sure or something.
Probably. It's just that one where it's like, because I wasn't even at home, so it's not like I could pull out a closet cosplay. I like literally just happened to have the piece that made it recognizable because I forgot to return it the night before.
Funny.
It's
so. Also, Hollis Thompson says it's like the Revenge of the Sith VHS all over again. Can't have them all. Talking about how we're collectors.
Literally. We're a little overdue for our cosplay catwalk, and I cannot really do it because I'm in a cramped little space. Also, I'm just wearing pajama pants, y'all. I have no shame. They are at least Wonder Woman pajama pants. So let me see if I can stand up and show you my adorable Wonder Woman pajama pants. I'm too sexy for my PJ pants. I'm too sexy for my PJ pants. So sexy, it hurts. All right.
Did I borrow those like 2 visits ago?
I'm pretty sure you did. Yeah, I'm almost positive you did. Okay, so Crayle, do you want to go next?
I
And
was
we'll
gonna say,
save the
I'll
best.
go.
We'll save the guest for last. I was gonna say
Yeah.
save the best for last, not that I'm slamming you, but you know what? The guests are always the best.
Well, I mean, they are especially the best right now because I didn't have time to accessorize because I had that whole partially pulled my shoulder out of this pocket episode. So I'm too sexy for my cosplay. I'm too sexy for my cosplay. Appreciate it because I injured myself.
Well, you look gorgeous. I'm excited. This
yeah,
is the
I don't
first
have any
time you're
gloves or
donning Dark Supergirl.
Yeah. No gloves, no boots. That's okay. It's a pretty simple costume once you get all these pieces on it anyway. So
we need to do Supergirl versus Dark Supergirl. That's what we need to do.
Absolutely. The problem is how are we going to Photoshop me across from me? My skills
No,
aren't that
me as regular Supergirl.
I was just making a joke about how I'm Supergirl.
I've got there's
Jen's too sexy for Black Widow. She's too sexy for her cosplay. So sexy it hurts.
One thing about this is there's the lipstick I
you
was
got the
looking
lipstick.
for. And does this one have? No, because I ate it, but I can also put a granola bar in there.
Yes, pockets. Pockets are the best.
Because there's no pockets, and when we do charity events, I don't use firearms at all. I don't, because we're interacting with kids. We're often in public areas, and I just prefer to use the batons. And also, it's great when I can be like, hey, do you want to hold a baton? You got to be careful with this.
Mm-hmm.
Not you, Loki.
Those batons are awesome, by the way.
Yeah, these are just Ruby's batons. They're,
Nice.
they've got an on-off.
Carlin Stuart says, "Shake it, Loki. Make Asgard shake. Shake it with your mama. Shake,
Okay.
shake,
Here's
shake."
my little friend.
Oh,
Here you go.
Loki. Loki's too sexy for the Loki Gator. Too sexy for the Loki Gator. So sexy. Jen, I hope you warned Jim about the cosplay catwalk shinning.
Yeah.
Okay, good, because I forgot to.
Thank you for your cooperation.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for shaking what Asgard gave you. It wasn't Asgard that gave it to you, but
They got it from somewhere, right?
Asgard raised it.
Yes.
Exactly.
So we also, the only viewer submissions we have are from our friend Charlie. And I did not have time to collage them, but this is some of Charlie's looks. Oh, and now we're on to Jim's look. So here, let me move you so you're not blocked by the pictures. If you want to just talk a little bit about each picture.
Sure.
Loki.
Yeah, this I went to a festival, holiday festival thing, and we just went in Chicago and just took some pictures. And I got this new fancy scepter, and I was like, I need to take pictures with this. It lights up, and it's really loud, so I'm not going to turn it on, but it's really awesome.
It's cool.
Yeah, I love it. I also do Peter Pan, and if you look inside my hand, another
I see Tink.
Tinkerbell is in there. So that's Carol. She is in the Michigan section, so she's in the League of Enchantment as well. That's relatively a new suit that I have. I have yet to be able to cosplay it for any events.
Did you have one coming up, though, right?
But we do have one coming up soon. We're doing a Disney karaoke night for a charity event, and I'm gonna wear that.
Oh, fun. Okay, but how did you shrink Carol? That's my question.
That's how big she is in real life.
She's really tiny. Yeah,
Oh.
she's really that small.
That checks out.
Yeah, cool. This was it was at an event at where were we? We're at a theater, and this was one of my first memories, like a little core memory. That little boy there apparently doesn't talk very much, and he just sat there and stared at me for like what felt like forever, and I just was talking to him, asking him questions, and then after a good couple of minutes, he went back to his mom and he said something to her, and she came up to me with tears in her eyes, saying that I got him to say something. So it was like one of those moments that I was like, wow, it was, yeah. He just kept poking me in the eye. That was another thing he kept doing. Yeah. This one, I have a video of this little boy dressed as Captain America. Apparently, the parents hunted me out because they said that they heard Captain America was in the building. And at cons, there's usually quite a few of them, but they specifically, I guess, were looking for me. So this boy comes up and we fist bump, we talked, and then he just started like jumping in excitement.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he was just, there's a video of him just jumping around. It was so cute. There's my Lucius Malfoy. And I actually was honored to have a cape holder to throw my robe up in the air for me so I can get a really sweet picture. But we went to a college in Chicago, and it's beautiful. It looks like Hogwarts down there. There's Cap. There's a place called Cantini Park, and they have retired tanks. And went out there. It was freezing that day, so just had to get some snapshots because I just had my cap suit fitted because it was a little baggy, and I wanted to get some good pictures with that for some stuff. Yeah, I love that picture.
I want to pop in real quick to let you know that Carlin says your Malfoy is great. That's Carlin Stuart.
Thank you, Carlin. This one's a recent one. We did
Yeah.
a Toys for Tots in Glen Ellen, and it was a huge turnout with not only like people bringing toys, but as you can see, a huge turnout of the cosplayers that came in from League of Enchantment.
We had so many people there. We had a bunch of kids come in. Ant-Man and the Wasp were a real hit at
Yeah.
that one too,
They had a
which
line.
I was, yeah, they had a line.
They had a line.
It was really, really cool to see that.
Yeah.
That was really fun. This was another library event that we did. This was in Aurora.
Yeah. This is the one the Ariel and the little girl
Yeah.
sat and read in the book.
And our Ursula there, Sam, she's a blast. She's a trip.
hilarious.
She's got a cauldron in front of her, and she has kids reach in and pull out a little prize. And she's just like, it won't be much. It's just your voice. You would trade your voice for a prize. I can't do the same voice that she does, but she is fantastic.
She's phenomenal.
And it's just really great to
Mhm.
have everyone in here. We have a good mix of princesses and heroes. This was me as Spider-Gwen. And this kid was just on the other side of the glass. It seems to be a thing that we do, is have spider folks and kids on the other side of glass. But this was fun.
I was so amazed at this picture. I turn around, I look, and this little kid's like patting the window, so I had to take the picture quick.
And this both of us. This was at a Toys for Tots drive, and it just happened that a little Captain Marvel and a little Spider-Man came in, and that's who we were at that time. And I love seeing the kids. This was an event where we could actually interact with the kids at a gym while they did their Toys for Tots drive. So you see some of them running around in the back there, and some of our other members as well. This was really, really cool. That girl I got to hang out with for a bit. This was something that we did during lockdowns because we couldn't actually visit the hospitals. So what we did is we made big signs to hold out and show the signs to the kids in the windows. And some of them actually wrote back to us and showed that. So we have messages for them to let them know that we're thinking of them still.
That's the same one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And this was one of our hospital events that we did. So this was me as Rapunzel and some of our other members here. That shows kind of what our care packages are. Each care package has like one big toy, and then some other smaller activities and some other toys for them to do while they're in the hospital. Yeah, stuff to let them just know that we're thinking about them.
Love it.
And this was Jim's first event.
This was my first event. So yeah. And it was really fun. I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect, what to do. And I'm not going to lie, Jen was like really great and supportive. And Thor right there, he's actually our president of the Chicago division. And he helped, he's the one that got me into this. And Jen walked me through, showed me what I was supposed to do, really coached me. And from there on out, this was such a great event. And it was nice and warm because Spider-Man can be, it's usually cold out.
That's why recruit for Captain Marvel on that day.
Yeah.
I was counting how many times I got called Wonder Woman.
Oh, Spider-Man is such a cold suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our third board member did just let us know that we are up to 36% of our goal now. So
All
we're
right, let's keep it going.
Let's keep it going.
Yep, and the people who donated, I'm just looking, I have the donation page open, are Andrea and Chris saying they're here supporting the fundraiser, and Jen and Jim with League of
Yeah,
Enchantment.
they're members of ours. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Aw.
Andrea and Chris. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Andrea and Chris. That's so sweet. I love that. I really do. So, oh my gosh, I can't believe we only have 10 minutes left. Where did time go?
Let me fix that for you. I'm going to talk to the
TBA. Like,
yeah, I know a couple people.
So what we usually do at the end of the show, or towards the end of the show, is we ask our guests to give some advice to new cosplayers. So I'm going to give you two the stage, and if you two just want to give some advice to new cosplayers and also give some advice to people who might be looking to get into charity work. And so just one sec. There you go.
Whoa, hi. My main advice for cosplayers is that it is about 70% attitude. You know, you don't have to have a perfect costume. You don't have to look exactly like the character. If you love a character and want to cosplay them, most of that is going to be you just having the confidence to bring it and to find the character within yourself. You know, find a character that you resonate with, that you love, that there's a reason that you connect with them, and tap into that when you've got the costume on. What about you? Advice for new cosplayers?
Don't be afraid to ask for support. Like if you need help with anything, a lot of cosplayers have been in the same situation, and one of the great things about this community is that everybody supports everybody. So the diversity and everything about it is so powerful that everybody's kind of like their own little hero. And in the charity world, it's just compassion. So it's knowing that you're going to be making somebody else happy is just enough. It's not about you, it's about that other person and helping them. And that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, so many of us have different skill sets, different expertises, different experiences, and it's so wonderful to be able to reach out to someone and say, hey, you're good with foam, you're good with sewing, what can you do, how can you help me? Someone, you know, and then to be able to pay that forward also within the own community. If anyone is interested in volunteering and doing charity work, find an organization near you. If you are in Michigan or in the Chicago area, check out the League of Enchantment. We can always use more help and more members. And even if you are not a cosplayer and want to help out and volunteer, a lot of organizations, I know LOE does specifically, we are always looking for support members. We need people to not just hold capes, but to take the photos, to interact, kind of break the ice, to sit at our booth and talk about our organization. We will also be at C2E2 if anyone is going to be going to that. You can come check out our booth there. Check out local libraries that have story time. Sometimes they want to volunteer to come in character and do that. Check out, I don't know what other kind of organizations, but look on Facebook, look on social media, see if there's something near you. There's a lot of other groups out there that do hospital visits and libraries and any kind of charity that, you know, we're reaching out to the community to be a part of.
I can't say anything more than that.
Okay.
That is wonderful advice. Thank you both. So where can we find you?
So me personally, I'm Jen Watson Art on Instagram, and I've got a Facebook page, Jen Watson Art. Also, I'll post my cosplay there as well as a lot of my illustration and my Etsy shop.
I'm Jim Kuczynski. On my Instagram, it's weird. It's Jiminy Cricket, but Jim spelled like going to the gym, GYM, instead of the character. And definitely, if you reach out to me and you want some information, you can always go to the League of Enchantment website. If you just Google search League of Enchantment, you'll find it. And we're very active on our social sites, so Instagram, Facebook, and there's always somebody there that is going to respond to you. If it's one of the social sites, it might be me.
So it's Facebook is League of Enchantment Chicago. There's also League of Enchantment Michigan.
Yes.
And what is the Instagram site? It's LOE Chicago.
LOE Chicago. Yeah, it's
LOE Chicago on Instagram, and loechicago@gmail.com is our email address. If you have any questions, you can always email us. Whether that's an event, a membership question, I'll probably be answering the membership question, or one of our other membership team members. And we also take any general questions as well. If you have any questions about the organization, email us, find us on Facebook, check out our website, leagueofenchantment.org. There's sections for Michigan and for Chicago. Always happy to have new members, new interest, more people who want to help their communities and put more joy into the world, because that's why we're here. We need to put more joy into the world. We need more good things. And it just ripples out, you never know who you're gonna reach. And that's okay.
All right. And Crayle, where can we find you?
So you can find my cosplay stuff along with Kelly's cosplay stuff at linktree.com/Phoenix Sis Cosplay. So Phoenix SIS Cosplay, short for Phoenix Sisters. And then on top of that, if you're specifically looking for Pokeball dioramas and other Pokemon themed art, linktree.com/Pokeballs, no accents or anything, by Crayle. My name like it's spelled here, Pokeballs by Crayle. That's got the social media, the store, how to custom order, all kinds of stuff like that. And Kelly, do you want to tell us where we can find anything to do with you outside of our Phoenix Sisters Linktree?
Yes. So if you go to my website, www.kellyguentner.com, that's GUENTNER, you can find there's not a whole lot outside of, like, you and I do everything together. Basically, you've even edited my book. So yeah, that's basically where you can find my books, which Crayle edited my most recent book. You can find my podcast stuff, my cosplay stuff, all my creative stuff is on my website. And you can also find a link to the Multiverse FunRaiser website through my website, through our link tree. Everything links back together. It's all one connected multiverse.
Right. You can even get to my website from Kelly's website, because I built them both and I did it that way on purpose.
Oh yeah. We're a package deal, baby. So on that note, let me refresh, because this is the last panel of the night, but the donation link is still open. We're sitting pretty at 36%, $730. Thank you to everyone who's donated so far. Thank you to all the panelists and all the hosts who have given their time. So this event is great. We have some great things in store for tomorrow. We're going to start fresh tomorrow with our B-List Boosters panel, which is going to be a few comic nerds. And I mean that in the best way, talking about their favorite lesser known comic characters that need more love. So I'm going to play this one last time so you know a little more details about how to donate. And then otherwise, have a great night, everyone. Keep donating. Keep watching tomorrow, and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Our charity partner for this year's Multiverse FunRaiser is the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. They exist to spread awareness of aortic health and prevent unnecessary suffering through genetic research, widespread education, and radical advocacy. Simply click on the link at our website, www.themultiversefunraiser.com, that says donate here, and that will take you to our Just Giving link. All donations go directly to the John Ritter Foundation for Aortic Health. As a bonus, every $10 donation that you give enters you into our sweepstakes to win fantastic prizes. All information can be found at our website under giveaway. So thank you for watching and thank you for supporting.
Oh, we're still on.